Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Old Lesbian Hour. I'm Bill Whittle. It is Monday night at the 10th of November. I hope everybody's doing well. Got some fun stuff to show everybody. It's it's been a fun couple days. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, yeah, flawless launch. Absolutely perfect, as always, as usual. Um, so, yeah, Bill's in a really good mood tonight. The what now? If you don't already know, I'll tell you on Thursday. Um, so it's good to see everybody. Steve Whip says wife is literally watching a lesson stream right now. Oh, no. I hope it's not this one. Um, Let me just zoom out just a wee tiny little bit while I make adjustments to your picture. We control your picture now. Where to go? Here it is. Yeah, just a little more room. Show some of my awesome Boomer toys in the background. Toys. It's a model, man. Um, all right. Yeah, I got some fun stuff, and I am talking to a couple people now. Yeah, Dylan Stark gets it exactly, um, and um, I'll talk about that on Thursday because it's just too fun to pass up. Um, so I got some new stuff to show, which is cool, and I also have been just rendering away back to bowling. I wear a bowling shirt every Stratosphere show I do has been a bowling shirt for weeks now, months and months now. I just have a different set. Some of them may not look like bowling shirts, but they're all bowling shirts. They're freaking awesome. Um, like I said, just kind of let the room settle down a little bit. Started a little later than usual tonight. Sorry about that. This bloody Facebook, man. I I hit post, and then I walk away, and it's like the fourth time I've done it, and the thing sits there for like 20 seconds, and then it comes back and says, "Would you like to add this to your group thing?" Or no, I just wanted you to post it. That's what I said. Post for you, stupid machine. Um, so anyway, um, I have been working on expanding the envelope. I am also working on expanding the opportunity base. I barely, man. I have been shot through the forehead with a diamond bullet. Being shot through the head with a diamond bullet. Um, I think it's called. Is it Elvin Labs or 11 Labs? Hang on a second. For the shirts. Hang on. It's 11 Labs. No, it's not. Um, Hang on. I shall get you the link because they're too freaking awesome to pass up. Um, I thought it was 11 Labs. It's something Labs. Somebody will find it for me. 11 Labs. Let's try it again. Oh, I should have put a space here. Okay, got it. Come on. I can't seem to find the website. I'm gonna, yeah, because somebody will find it. Probably Marisha. They'll figure it out. Um, we need the merch. Yeah, we need the merches for sure. Um, see if that word helps the search. There, hip, hip. It's 11 Oasis. 11 Oasis. Here it is. I got it. Hang on. 11 Labs is the voice thing. Uh, you have to kind of. Let me see if I can get you on the retro page here. These shirts. Stand by. I got him, Coach. Hope you're doing well. Here we go. All right, now we're talking. They've added some cool ones. I got some buy-in to do. Here you go, everybody. Coming into the streams here in 1 second. Here you go. And Merry Christmas from old Saint Nick here, YouTube. There, pow. And hang on, Twitchies, Twitcheroos. Boom. All right. Merchandise. Real quick, like I said, like the room settle down just a little, bring in, suck in the enormous crowds that are coming. Conductor Productions, which is a cool name, says, "Hey, Bill, have you checked out Reentry, a space flight simulator on Steam? Looks really good to fly Apollo missions. I've seen like early access of it, and then I saw the release for it. It's like DCS. It's like every single switch in the Mercury capsule, Gemini capsule, every single switch in the command module, lunar module. They all work. It really, really looks fun. The only way I would really get into that, to be honest with you, is if I had like 10 free days, because I would do the moon mission in real time. I think it'd be just bitching. That'd be really fun. My friend Steve Stipp, who I've known for these 53 years, 54 years, something like that, and Steve, I got him turned on to Microsoft Flight Simulator, which was like Microsoft Flight Simulator 2002, or not much later, in 2006, something like that. And he got it into his head, because he has the same amount of prodigious free time that I've got. He got it into his head to fly like a Baron, which is a 240 knot airplane. And he flew the Baron around the world to every single capital of every single country in Microsoft Flight Simulator in real time, which means that he would take off and then he'd put that baby on cruise and he would wait for 7 hours. So I actually really admire that. But I would, yeah, I'd build myself a little space simulator and lock myself in, and only Gary Sinise could bring me stuff up that was already up there. So yeah, there you go. So I've been, what's this? Oh, the Apollo switches. Are these the guys I've got? Yes. Where is it? Rummaging sounds. I got, hang on. I ordered it specifically to impress Dave Big Boutte. It's here somewhere. Hang on. I'm not gonna spend 100 years looking for this. Let me just check. Excuse me, sir. Pardon me. Ah. As you probably know by now, if you've been a regular, at least on the Twitch side, you know that when we're ready to roll, Dave Big Boutte does a final command check, goes around the room, whether we're go, no go for launch, and then the last thing we do is we set SCE to aux. And that's what turns on the Stratosphere launch show. Anytime you find yourself in a really, really bad situation and you're feeling like, man, I don't know if I can take this anymore, I'm at the end of my line, man, try setting SCE to aux. It's kind of the sort of the pre-computer. Have you tried turning it off, turning it back on again, that kind of thing? So yeah. What happened with the UPS delivery plane crash, missing an engine on the left wing? I don't know. Got him, Coach. I do know that the MD-11 is a relatively minor modification to the DC-10, which was plagued by all kinds of problems. They really rushed that airplane. If you don't know what to look for, most people can't tell them apart. And the worst single engine airplane accident in American history happened when an American Airlines DC-10 took off, and the engine fell off the left wing, and it just did the exact same thing, except it was the left engine on. It was left engine on both, and I mean, thank God, it's not much comfort to the families of the people that were killed in the recent crash, but the American Airlines DC-10 was full of people. It was 270 killed or something like that. You know, it just, I would not fly a DC-10 to save my life. And I don't know how many are still in service, but the Lockheed TriStar was a much better airplane and a much better looking airplane. And so so Douglas knew that Lockheed was working on this thing. It's a big step forward because everything prior to that had 4 engines, and that's only had 3, so it was a lot more economical. And they rushed the DC-10 out the door, and that airplane had a lot of problems. Anyway, Trinity Water says gyroscopic precessional torque effects #1 engine mightily. See, I know what that means, which makes me much more pleased with myself than I really should be. Anyway, yeah, the front of the boat fell off. You ever seen that sketch by those 2 Australian guys about the oil tanker, the front of the boat fell off? That's one of the genuinely funny things. It's been, that is as good as the turbo and Cabulator. Oh, so I got this, by the way. It's a lunar contact light. This is what you would go on when the director would say, okay, and action. And this blue light would come on, and that's when they would begin, the dialogue and all the other motions they went through on the 40-mile wide sound stage, which is kept in a vacuum. John Ogilvy with the super chat says, Elon has hinted that Tesla is developing a personal flying vehicle. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are, I want to see it. Rusha says, what does the SCE switch do? Well, the SCE switch is, funnily enough, is part of the command module. And the the purpose of the SCE switch is to switch to normal and then also to aux. So that's what it does. It switches from normal to aux. And by the way, these things, look at these, it's really well made. These things are hooked, they're ready to be wired, man. If you want to build an Apollo capsule simulator, there you go. I am looking forward to Elon's flying car. I hope it's more like a Jetson. I've said this from the beginning, man. Flying cars are like, I don't get flying cars. I don't get it. Everything that makes a good car makes a bad airplane. Everything makes a bad airplane makes a good car. Now, I have to bow to Burt Rutan, who built a flying car called the Bipod, which looked exactly like those twin pod things in Bespin and Empire Strikes Back. But I've never understood it. If you have to drive it to the airport to take off, why don't you just take off in an airplane? The only flying car I would want would be a flying car where I could be in traffic in the 405 and just go vertically and then go. But that begs the question, why would I be in traffic anyway? You know, I did see the new stuff with the Jetson flying machine, where there were 2 guys chasing each other down a valley, and I thought, I want to be one of those guys. That's pretty freaking cool. So we'll see. And by the way, the thing I liked best about flying when I was flying was being away from people who were drivers and not pilots. That was my favorite thing about flying, was being around people who were really, really switched on and serious about, serious about safety and professionalism. And in all the time, I have 1,000 hours in airplanes, and in all of that time, I think I've seen 2 people behave unprofessionally, and I see 2 people behaving unprofessionally every 10 seconds on the freeways here. Okay, so we get that out of the way. And we got the shirts. I'm going to leave the shirts up because it looks like we got some new ones. I could use a fashion update. Okay, so I got a couple of Colony things to show you. How do I want to do this? Sorry, 1 second. Okay, we'll just do that, and I can close that, yes. So, $148,000 with $8,000 down. And there's a 2-year backlog or something for the Jetsons? Yeah. Why? Steve Young says, watch 405 the movie. 405 the movie, I saw that when that came out 15, 16, 17 years ago. It is astonishingly good. It's still really, really good. Really good CGI. I used to look at that and just think, my God, I can't believe it. So here's what we got. I did some more work on the exploration team, because I think I've pretty much got pretty much got the Pioneers thing down. I am wrapping up another thing, and I know I got a lot of things that I have to deliver, but like I said, after watching that guy get up and make that donation, I just said it's now or never, Jack. So I've actually got 4 different leads for people to put together rooms and pitch this thing to. And I want to talk about that a little bit later. But I've been working, I've been working as if we're going to be doing the Colonies pilot episode crowdfunding thing soon. So I've been spreading things out a little bit. So I spent some time on the exploration storyline, because this is our Monday night pop culture show. You've all seen the Homesteader storyline. We've done lots and lots and lots of stuff with the colonists on that. Now I've been thinking about opening it up. So a couple weeks ago, I premiered my first pass at these aliens, and I completely crashed out because people were saying space whales, and I thought, man, you know, the Star Wars thing was absurd, and plus there's space whales in Star Citizen, and I had a lot of fun in Star Citizen. I played Star Citizen for a year and a half, 2 years. I had a really wonderful time. Stopped in like 2017 or 18 and stuff, something like that. It's all right, Geek, don't worry, man. It's me, and the reason it bummed me out so much was I really want something different, you know, just something really. No, but you didn't mess it up, man. You made it better, and I didn't. I wanted something that looked different that people hadn't seen before. So anyway, if Chris Roberts, who again had a lot of fun in Star Citizen, but Chris Roberts is I would say probably the least original thinker that I've ever encountered in my wanders across the stars. Of all the souls I've met in my journey across the stars, his was the least human. So when I saw the space whales there, I thought, okay, all right, whatever. So I corrected. And Pentakaran says I got to go cook, but I'll listen. Stick around just for 1 second. I'm about to run a real brief video. So I went back to basics, and I took a look at what I liked and what I didn't like, and I just actually, Patty Karen, if you need to go, you probably go. When I say it's going to be a minute, it usually means half an hour. But I've talked about this many times before in writing, and the first time I experienced it was in role-playing games. I was playing Traveler, and for example, in a role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons, you are supposed to roll all the characteristics of your character, and everybody wants. Is it 20 in D&D? Scale of 1 to 20, and everybody wants to be, at least I did, I wanted to be 20 in strength, 20 in endurance, 20 in constitution, 20 in education, 20 in intelligence, 20. But you had to kind of be true to the dice rolls, and what the Traveler book said was, this is how you actually have the basis of your character. You've got to accept the fact that random things happen, and then you have to be able to explain this. So if you had an education of 20 and an intelligence of 3, that meant you were really, really, really overeducated for your intelligence. If you had an intelligence of 20 and education of 3, then you were a really smart guy who just never went to school. And so that's how to kind of help you sort of backstory the character. Well, I've been doing the same kind of thing here, because one of the problems with Midjourney is repeatability. Now we're going to get into some serious hardcore science fiction, so everybody buckle up. So that's a problem. And I did a bunch of renders. I was trying to get this thing closer to what I wanted, and I couldn't get it completely repeatable. So I said, okay, how am I going to deal with this? We'll probably have that technology in about 1.5 to 2 years, but I'm not going to wait that long. So how do I deal with the fact that these aliens that I'm rendering look very similar to each other, but not identical? And I thought, okay, here's something I haven't seen before. What if you were to discover a planet where there were, and this is all the back writing I've been doing. So this is the planet Medusa. The exploration storyline begins when the guys who will eventually form the Aurora Republic, the colonies, send their own exploration ship to this one system that happens to be in the middle of a small cluster. So that little cluster becomes the colonies. And in this solar system, there's a water world, and then there's a planet that's outside of the orbit of the water world, and they call it Medusa. And only Arthur C. Clarke fans will get this. But Medusa is colder, and its atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide, and it's got a very, very thick atmosphere. It's 2 or 3 atmospheres. So I did, water is 600 times denser than air. So I decided I wanted something that was maybe 200 times denser than air, which is like 3 or 4 atmospheres. So you're not underwater, but you feel the drag. And because there's so much buoyancy, you can have these super large creatures that float. So here's the ecology. I'm going to show you some pictures of these guys. So here's the ecology that I worked backwards on. You know what? I'm going to show you the renderings first. Then I'll tell you. Make more sense that way. So I've got I don't know, maybe a minute of one of the sub categories of these aliens. So the aliens that you're going to see are all alphas, and they start off. I think I'll be doing a running narration. They start off. They kind of bud. So they start out as really pretty small, and they get big fast. And no two of them are identical, but they have the same morphology. So that's why the biologists have called them alphas. When I put this into the sizzle reel for the colonies crowdsourcing thing, I'm going to intercut a close-up of a woman who's the chief exobiologist on board the Armstrong, and I'm going to frame it as, okay, this is our initial report back, and we'd like to stress that there are so many holes and so many things that we still don't understand, that this is just simply preliminary observations, and there's so much that we don't know. But basically, she says this, and as you go through this thing, what you're going to find is that they've grouped these creatures into at least 4 different categories. So the alphas, Roadrunner says the Armstrong, Neil or Lance. Well, it could be both, because it's beautiful and it's an exploration ship, so Neil, but it's got long legs, fast ship, so maybe it's Lance too. It's Neil DeLance Armstrong. So here's how it works. So you got this planet, it's bigger than Earth. It's not denser than Earth. Its gravity is pretty near Earth, but it's got a very, very, very thick atmosphere. There are, like all planets, there are highlands, there are mid-levels, and then there are lowlands. This particular planet, Medusa, millions, if not a billion years ago, took an impact that very nearly cracked the planet. So Medusa has an area that's about 1/3 of the size of the total area of the planet is this basin. And it's very, very old. But what's cool about this is, as you start descending into the basin, the atmospheric density increases and increases and increases. And when you get down to the bottom of the basin, it's 10 atmospheres. So what we're going to discover over the course of like the first season or two, with this exploration is that there are highland creatures called the alphas, and these are the most delicate and kind of elegant looking of these Medusans. Then when you get into the mid levels, the atmosphere gets a lot darker than what you're going to see here. And then when you get down to the lowlands, into this basin, it's going to essentially be pitch black. So then it's just going to be just like tentacles coming down out of the air. But this isn't them. So there's no mystery to what you're about to see. One of the things I liked about that first pass on the alien things was that sense that there's just something huge up there, we just know what it is. They're going to see something on their sonar. These things don't show up on radar. Yeah, on like moon of Saturn, I'm pretty sure it's Enceladus, or Mimas. Yeah. Um, so they see these things in the highlands. What I'm going to show you, these alphas, and then as they start going down deeper, then they start seeing creatures that are more robust, not so transparent, and then as they get down into the basin, it's pitch black down there, and then these things are just absolutely mind-bogglingly enormous. It's just absolutely enormous. These are small compared to what you're going to see. So, just to finish up here, I thought, okay, well, what do these things eat? They obviously filter feeders because they just float like a Portuguese man of war, which is what their inspiration came from. And I thought, man, I really want to do a planetary ecology that is just so foreign to us. Not in terms of the way the things look, but just foreign. And so I thought that the upper layers of the atmosphere of this planet are going to have creatures that are going to be about this big, and they're going to have little tiny little gas bladder on them. They're going to look like a tadpole with a little bag on the top, little tiny little things. And so the question is, what do they eat? Well, they don't eat anything. They are in the upper atmosphere, and they are mobile photosynthesizers. They're plants basically. They're mobile plants, but they don't need to eat anything. And the upper atmosphere is just teeming with these things, teeming. And so you've got trillions of these little creatures up at these very high levels. And they're getting their energy from the sunlight, and they're basically plants. And they fly around, and when they die, they just fall to the ground. So the scientists are going to call them manna. And this planet is just coated with food. So there are no predators because you don't need predators. The food is everywhere. And you've got these different levels, these different categories of filter feeders. Now Andrew DeLay comes along and ruins the whole thing and says, where would they get their minerals? Curse you, Andrew DeLay. I'll figure that out. They probably have to dip down, collapse their little gas bags and go nibble on some chalk or something. This is the kind of questions I love. We'll figure it out, man. We'll figure it out. This is the kind of question I love because this is how you get real science fiction and not lazy writing. Oh, okay, now we have to figure this out. Maybe I have to figure this out. Okay, well, maybe the place is like volcanically active and it's putting up enough volcanic byproducts in the upper atmosphere that that's your answer. Something like that. Infidel 42 says, I don't know, Bill, something like that creates an ecological niche where something will try to eat them. We don't know if that's true or not, Infidel, because there's no place on Earth that has nothing but abundant food for the and no predators. I don't know. Maybe we'll add predators. Who knows? In any event, what I'm going to show you are the alphas. And after I show you the alphas, which only goes on for about a minute, there's like 20 seconds of black. And then we come back, and these would be preliminary renderings of a planet that I'm either going to call Aurora or Dawn Shadow. And this is the water world, and this is the jewel. This is the most desirable planet that's been discovered at the point of this story. It's not the most Earth-like, it's just the most desirable. And I said it was a water world, and so I'm actually really loving the idea that, well, it's got no moon, so it's got no tides. It's got no axial tilt, so it doesn't have a whole lot of seasons, which means it's relatively calm. It's basically Bermuda. That's what it is. But instead of having like these large cities, you've got just lots and lots and lots of these very futuristic archipelagos is the word. Okay. So we'll see. David Boutte says no moon, no magnetic field. You're a spoil sport, man. That's not necessarily true. I I don't think the magnetic field is dependent on the moon. If it is, we'll have to see. Anyway, all right. So here we go. So what you're going to see is you're going to see the alphas. It's a little bit right now. It's a little bit too close encounters for me. A little bit. It's a little bit too precious. But this is what the animation returned, and I just think it's really, really beautiful. So let me set it up, and I should be able to do a narration over both of these things here. Hang on a second. Yeah, it's going to be a little tough for this one. Okay, ready? Here we go. And then I got a super chat I'll come back to. And I just have to grab it and drop it, and we're on our way, ski. So my narration may be a little bit out of sync, but you'll get the idea. So what you start out by seeing is, Eric, I did do an afterburner on how important the moon was for having life, but we don't have food falling from the sky. We'll sketch in the details, and we'll make the details. We'll make the problems make it even more interesting. What was I just going to say? Oh, what you're going to see is the alphas, and then the very last stuff is where a couple of alphas are over the surface of the ocean, and the ocean has a surface layer of photoluminescent things like krill. Okay, so like I said, it's a little bit too precious, but it's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to turn the volume down as fast as I can. I'm going to try and keep these things together. We start off with the small ones. The narrator will say, "This is the first thing you're going to see. This is the smallest alpha that we were specimen that we were able to see. Yes, type 1. If I suck at games, that's Captain Kirk, and that's the Gorn Captain. And this is the great single moment in science fiction history, because this represents the big brain of the Western man who has to have an education and a vision and persistence and a strategy so that he can subdue barbarous monsters who are coming at him with sharp rocks." It's the greatest moment in science fiction. All right, so I got to drag this into Twitch and start the one over on YouTube. I'll try and get these as close as I can, but you'll get the idea. So we're going to start with the smallest alphas and go to the biggest ones. There's going to be a black disconnect, and then I would like to have changed the music, but didn't have time. And then we're just going to have some preliminary looks at 5 different settlements on Aurora. Okay, ready? All right, here we go. And 1, 2, 3. So here's an infant one. This is a juvenile. They consist of 3 parts. They've got a blue gas bladder. They've got like a central core that does the eating, and then they've got these tentacles. And they're very bioluminescent because it's dark down there. And that one's leaving. Kind of cool. This is a juvenile that's getting ready to go into the atmosphere and really start to grow big on the filtered food. He's got the blue gas bag area. He's got the central core. He's got his tentacles. But this one, since they're all colonies, is too heavy on core materials, and he didn't have enough gas bag materials, so he's not going to make it. He's one of the ones that just didn't make it. All right, here's a relatively small alpha. I got rid of the jellyfish motion, which was really hard. Here's like a first contact between the two. That's just really pretty cool. And this is kind of scary. And here's another one. I got rid of that jellyfish pulsating thing, and they look more like sails now. They're supposed to look like sails. And this next set is really cool. So this one's dragging his tentacles through the water, and he's eating the photoluminescent little creatures that are in the water. And the next shot is my favorite of all. I love this shot. Just love that shot. And this one I couldn't figure out what exactly he's doing, and he's got things sticking to him. And then finally, the last one really puzzled me because the next shot you're going to see, he shoots these things down, and I just thought, no, it's just an error. It's supposed to go up, and I realized, no, he's fishing. He's sending photoluminescent lures down deeper. I'm sorry if the music's trailing me. I should have done that. Sorry. And here's some basics of some of the archipelagos on Aurora. So this is the jewel of the colonies. This is the world that they're fighting tooth and nail for. The oceans are super shallow. It never gets much deeper than 100 feet anywhere on the planet. I just think it looks cool, and I love the fact that it's like this dispersed kind of colony instead of big cities. Right here, back down there, and we'll get ready over here, and that's that. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was much better on. For the viewers on YouTube because I took the volume down on YouTube. I forgot to take it down on Twitch. In any event, that's that. So, away it goes. Yeah, the fun you could have on that planet, huh, with a jet ski and stuff. So that's kind of the first pass on the various. Alien life on Medusa, and I'll intercut that with close-ups of really good close-ups of the faces and all of that stuff. So that's that. All right, let's get to the questions, and we will boogie on out of here. So let's see. It's nice to have a website that doesn't take 4.5 years to load again. Monday Pop Culture Night. Thank you, Marusha, for curating these. By the way, Marusha, happy to say this publicly. I saw the thing you sent me, and it's so bloody mind-bogglingly brilliant that I don't know if any of this stuff exists, but as a breakdown for how AI should exist, it's absolutely astonishing. It's just unbelievable work. It's unbelievable how deep it is and how well thought it out is. Excuse me. So, yeah, so there's that. So it's really, really impressive. Looking forward to talking to you about it when we get a chance. There's still an awful lot of things that have to get done that won't be ready if we start as soon as I'm hoping to start. Thank you. But we're going to have to do workarounds until it gets there. Again, I was talking to Grok and ChatGPT about how far away are we from having all the tools needed to just do it. And we're about a year away. Until then, I can do, I'm just going to have to fake it. So, anyway, let's see what we got. So we got a Roadrunner, we got an Astrosea, we got a Samuel Eddy, it looks like a new name, that's cool. Capital G Geek, Marisha Dark, Roadrunner, GK Masterson, good to see GK back, Braden Higby, Eric Blake, that's it. Bill, did you see the 40th anniversary get together at La Puente Hills Mall, Back to the Future Lone Pine Mall? I did not see that. I did lost my train of thought. Yeah, some people saying it's looking too much like a jellyfish, like a Man of War. Yeah, I'll play with it some more. I'll get it right. It's fun to give it a try. There it is. Karenki says, how many United States cruisers had the bows blown off by Japanese long lance torpedoes? It had to be a half dozen. That long lance torpedo was the best torpedo of the war. It just had an insane range. It was like, I want to say it was like 40 miles. It couldn't have been 40 miles, but it was as a 40,000 yard torpedo. Maybe that's what it was. Insane, incredible, great detonator. The German torpedoes were bad. Our torpedoes were worse. And Victor Davis Hanson was talking about this, and he said that's one of the many reasons why the Allies won the war. Japan had the best torpedoes on the planet by far. If they'd put those torpedoes in German U-boats, they probably would have won the Battle of the Atlantic. But they didn't talk to each other because they didn't trust each other. And meanwhile, the Americans are putting out the M4 Sherman tank, which has got a small gun on it, but the Sherman wasn't designed to be a main battle tank. It was designed to be an infantry support tank, and they had to get it across the channel and across the Atlantic for that matter. So they had to go with a lighter tank that wasn't anything like a match for the Tigers and the Panthers. But then the British had built this, what was it? It was a 78 millimeter gun or something like that. And they said, we think we can just fit it inside the turret of a Sherman, and they did. So that was the Sherman Firefly, and that thing could kill German main battle tanks. So the British took the P-51, which was an astonishingly good design. I think North American built that airplane in 100 days from the day they finished the blueprints. And originally had a Allison engine in it, I think. And it was underpowered, but it was efficient. It was really, really good aerodynamics on it. That belly scoop, that classic belly scoop on the P-51 is designed in such a way that it not only doesn't cause drag, it actually generates thrust, if you can believe such a thing. And the British said, this is an okay airplane, but we put a Rolls-Royce Merlin on this baby, and you got a real fighter in it. So that's what happens when you have allies, which is why I'm in favor of alliances for the USA. Where am I? Thank you very much, Kathy Roberts. It's such a sweet thing to say. And the Scorch, thank you. We'll get it there. I didn't know. Pentarchin. I'll get used to it in time. That was the first laminar flowing. I kind of think I might have heard that somewhere, but certainly wasn't registered. Okay, let's see what we got here. We'll start with Roadrunner. See, I got the smartest audience in the world, man. Andrew Lay says, the Allison only had a one-stage supercharger. The Merlin had a two-stage. Okay, anybody other than Andrew DeLay or me, what's the difference between a turbocharger and a supercharger? I know. He knows. How many others have delved this deep into the dark arts of engineering? They both do the same thing. They both compress air into the piston engine cylinders. But one's a supercharger and one's a turbocharger. What's the difference? Okay, here we go. Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. Hey, how are you, buddy? Yes, Pentarchin gets it right. The turbo is run by exhaust gas, and the supercharger is mechanically driven by a belt or a crank. Yes, exactly. Okay, I'm a fan of old musicals, and I'm starting to see a correlation between what is happening in our country right now and the musical Camelot. Yes, dude, that one sentence, I'm with you. I already know where you're going with it. President Trump, of course, is playing the role of Arthur, doing his best to make the country kingdom great. The American public is Guinevere, scatterbrained and listening to and giving into whoever says what they want to hear, whether it's true or not. The communist socialists are Lancelot, promising Guinevere whatever it takes to get her into bed with them, also while proclaiming their virtue, their unmarked, unbeatable virtue. And the Dems are Mordred, working in the background to try and undermine everything Arthur's trying to accomplish, even when it's going to lead to destruction of the country and kingdom. Am I totally off base with this analogy? I think it's one of the best analyses of the situation that I've ever heard. It's really perfect, dude. It's absolutely wonderful. There's a lot to say there. Camelot, the whole story and the musical especially, is written as it's obviously a tragedy. And the last lines in Camelot were the last lines in Long Journey of a Young God, which was Jack Horkheimer's, I think is his best planetarium show, the one about the Apollo program. So Horkheimer finishes his narration, and we leave Stonehenge, and we're out in space, and we see the Earth, and we're leaving the Earth, and Leonard Nimoy's not talking anymore, and just the music comes up, and it's Richard Burton. Each evening from December to December, before you drift to sleep upon your cot, Think back on all the tales that you remember of Camelot. And and basically what he's saying is, it's kind of Arthur's last words. He's basically saying, don't let it be forgot that once there was a spot for one brief shining moment that was known as Camelot. So is that a victory or is that a defeat? In my opinion, it's both. It's both. It's obviously a defeat. Arthur's dead. Guinevere's run off with Lancelot, the scumbag. Guinevere is the first 304, by the way. She's the prototypical 304. She's for the streets. And so, yes, everything's in ruins. But what Arthur's saying, but the last words of the musical are, don't let it be forgot that once there was a spot for one brief shining moment. And that's kind of it, man. Where's Guinevere in the hot crazy matrix? She's in the upper right hand corner. And that's kind of the beauty of it. I mean, civilizations rise and fall. Ours is eventually going to fall, so it's not going to fall on my watch, or yours either, for that matter. And the whole point of the colonies is that, okay, maybe the entity known as the United States of America becomes the North American Central Administrative District, but America's an idea, and that idea goes on to live at the frontier where it belongs, and there'll always be a frontier. So, so if there's always a decline, then there's always a fall. I was thinking about this during the Biden administration, about this circle, when I was talking about the cycle of civilizations, this 80-year cycle and all this other stuff. And there's some things that are really just, they're so deep and they're so obvious that you never see them. For example, if you take a Ferris wheel, the thrill of a Ferris wheel is going up high, right? The thrill of the Ferris wheel is going up high. And when you reach maximum height on a Ferris wheel, you have no place to go but down. And that whole downward cycle is a drag, and you're getting lower and closer to the ground. Conversely, when you're at the bottom of the Ferris wheel, which is the least interesting place to be, you've got nowhere to go but up. And so it's this genuinely is this yin yang kind of thing. We may be on a descending course now. Okay, well, that just means we're getting closer to the bottom when we start going up again. And all the time that you're going up on the Ferris wheel, you are running out of time. When you're at the top of the Ferris wheel and you're on your way down, time is counting down to your next upward trip. It's not as deep as it sounds, but you get the general drift. No, I think it's really exactly right. So whether or not nobody knows how long America's going to last. I like to think it's going to last forever. One of the reasons I'm doing the colonies is because I think if you could get to a permanent frontier, and the universe has given us a permanent frontier, then the principles that make America what America is are eternal. And Dave Reel's Area 51 puts it in perfect form. I actually think I need to write this down. He says, space colonization allows us to stay ahead of the inevitability of history. That's going to, I'm writing that down with my fountain pen. So that's just a beautiful quote. And it's going to appear on the screen. It's going to say, space colonization allows us to stay ahead of the inevitability of history. And then it's going to say, Bill Whittle, right there below. Sorry. Let's take a second. a long time to write that. I did it in cursive. Um, oh, Pentarkin is actually our friend P7 2017 for the win. Hooray. Um, okay. No, it's terrific, and I love it, and it's something to think about. And so, you know, he goes up and he goes down. And getting used to thinking about things cyclically is a blessing and a curse. It's a curse because you realize that decline is inevitable, and it's a blessing because you realize that decline isn't permanent. Astrasia. Howdy, Mr. Bill. Howdy, Ms. Astrasia. How are you? How did you learn to write interesting characters and in-depth stories? Well, some of us are just naturally born with a kind of talent that only appears once in a lifetime. I was touched by the immortal golden locks of the muses as a small child in the cradle, I suppose. Always been brilliant this way, always. Never really been able to do anything other than write absolutely magnificent stories and prose, and it's not something you can learn. Obviously, it's something you're really just you're a singular talent, as Coffee Shinada says. Yeah. Does it come naturally? Did you have to spend a long time practicing and observing how humans act? Is it a combination of both or something else? Actually, despite wallowing in my own crapulence there, it is, I think, my friend Steve, who, dirty, mean, heartless, crummy, miserable little bug snipers. That's freaking awesome. My friend Steve has always had just such visible talent, I met him when I was 10, he was 11, and Steve could draw anything, and he could sit down at a guitar, sit down at a piano, play anything. It's just enough to make you want to kill the guy. And he maintains that anybody can be taught to do that. And I kind of want to believe that. I know for a certain fact that anybody can be taught to write better than, a large portion of the populace, but there is some kind of a talent involved. You really got it right. It didn't come. I guess it did come naturally. I was when I went to school. I've mentioned this 100,000 times. We grew up in Bermuda. We would visit the United States once a year, and I was in would have been about third or fourth grade at Warwick Academy in Bermuda, which isn't as impressive as it sounds because all public schools had those kind of names. Saltus Grammar School and Warwick Academy. And we had gone to the U.S. for our 2-week trip, and we went to Dorney Park in Pennsylvania, and I came back, and we had a school newspaper, and I wrote a story about what it was like to go to Dorney Park, and they published it in third grade, and it got a lot of attention in the literary circles of Warwick Academy's third form, and I just have the I just notice things and I remember things. I've got a good memory. I used to, before it got all clogged up. I'm on a WD-40 IV drip now twice a week. But I do now that I'm not only older but significantly older. I've become aware of the process. So I'll give you a good example. I'd gotten to know Kelly Carlson from Nip Tuck and her security guard, later boyfriend, later husband, Dan, whose last name I'll leave out. And Dan she hired him because she had a real genuine threat of a stalker. And after many months, we come to find out that Dan is a former SEAL team member, actual operator. And I've told the story many times about how he never says a word. He doesn't have to. He's got nothing to prove to anybody. And I went. She said, "Hey, Dan's gonna just do some dry firing, some shooting practice. You want to come over?" I said, "Yes, I do." So I went over, and I've got a pistol, and Dan balances a dime on the front sight, and he says, okay, just dry fire it, and it keeps falling off, falling it off. And he says, you keep twisting to the right like this, and I'm trying to correct this. And then Dan says, let me show you something. He puts a dime out there and he goes click, 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 just phenomenal. So I wanted Dan to know I knew more about what he did than your average Joe. I wasn't trying to impress him. I just wanted to let him know with a little drop of lingo, that that I had a fundamental understanding of what these guys do for a living. So as evenly as I could, just kind of nonchalantly just tossed the term out. I said, so Dan, when you guys go like into a room or something, do you like double tap everybody? For those of you who are not either combat adjacent or combat experts like myself, for example, double tap is a two shot. You put 2 rounds into the guy to be sure. And Dan didn't say anything. He didn't change his expression. He just said, no, we pretty much keep shooting them till they're dead. And the second he said that, to answer your question, Astro Sayed, the instant he said that, I could feel it in my head. The recorders went to high speed. When you're recording on tape, a slow speed means you don't burn through tape so fast, but you don't get a lot of resolution of data. When recorders go to high and the tape really starts moving, that's when you're just really taking in all the information you could. And in my head, I realized I was talking with a guy who really, really did this. So I remembered everything about that time. I remember him talking about the workspace, you don't look down to reload. You got to reload in your workspace. My workspace, what's my workspace? Your workspace is about here, about 40 degrees tall and about 120 degrees up wide. That's your workspace. Everything you do happens in your workspace. You never look down, because if you look down, you're probably not going to look up again. And I thought, man, just recording all this stuff. So it's not like I do that all the time, but I do notice things that, and I kind of file them away in my head. And then the hard part is just practice. I mean, the first stuff I wrote, I got oh shoot, so tempted to find this. This was a birthday present for me. Yeah, that's it. I loved it so. That brings back memories. I haven't seen this in a long time. So this was a birthday present I got when I was 16, I think. This really does bring back memories. Tell me this isn't cool looking. That is an Olivetti electric typewriter. I just thought, that is the bomb, man. And hang on, YouTube, it's coming. And I got this for my birthday, and I think I was probably 15 or 16. Oh, damn you. Hang on a second, YouTube. You suck. Oh, you really suck. I hate this Streamlabs desktop. Hang on, I'll get it. Just give me 1 second here. Vintage. Okay, you want to do it the hard way? We'll do it the hard way. I can play this game. Hang on, YouTube, we're coming. New sources, add source, and desktop. And there we go. Open. Done. Okay, so this is a electric typewriter, and so I got this electric typewriter for my birthday when I was starting to write science fiction, and I remember one night I sat up and I wrote 68 pages because you just couldn't stop it. It just couldn't stop it. It was just cranking. 68 pages is a lot of writing. And I used green ink, which I thought was really, really cool at the time. It had the kind of IBM Selectric replaceable ball up there. You could put in italics in there and all kinds of cool things. I just loved the thing. But I did a ton of writing on that thing, and I was just doing it. Now, Jeremy talked to me a while ago about doing big back problems, and he asked me to send him the script. I said, I haven't written it, dude. I've just told you about it 200 times. That movie exists in my head. Every single frame of it. I've seen it 1,000 times. Well, not 1,000 times, but I've seen it 60 times. And so I get I just get these pictures and these images, and I just think they're really cool. And that pulls me along with it. And so if I'm doing a scene about like the Medusans or whatever, you start asking questions. Well, what would you see if you were there, and how would it eat, and all the rest of it. And that's where the imagination comes in. Really, it's just I have a out of control imagination. It's going to come as a terrible shock, I know, to so many of you who've been here for a long, long time. But I have a very chaotically ordered mind, and writing forces that into a funnel where you can refine it into something interesting. But I mean, my desk is a constant mess. Everything around me is just a constant mess, constantly. And I think the reason is because, you waste a lot of time looking for things, but it's kind of the 80-20 rule. It's like this stuff is the stuff I touch all the time, and it's closer to me. And the thing about having kind of a chaotic mind is that if you don't put everything into boxes, literally and figuratively, then there's a lot more of a chance to mix things up on the table. And so you get to combine things that, maybe other people wouldn't combine. So that helps. I went through a number of periods where I would find a character that I really liked from somebody else's work, and then I would just write that character. And the one that stuck with me the longest when I was working on that first draft of Aurora, that trip to Jupiter, was the guy who was the head of the company, Aurora Aerospace, and his name was Sam Grafe in the script, but it was just plain Al Swearingen from Deadwood. I was so blown away by that performance. I really think it's my favorite performance of all time, and I was just writing Al Swearingen, and then I would watch Deadwood after writing Al Swearingen, and Al Swearingen would say something, and I thought, that sounds like Swearingen. And then somebody would say something else, and then I would think, okay, here's what I would say if I was writing Al Swearingen. But what the writer, I forget his name, Michael, the creator of the show, but what the writer did was he had Swearingen not answer. And I thought, that's a big insight, dude, is I keep away from this loving the sound of your own voice thing, and just let the silence do the talking. But the first characters I wrote were, and I was mentioning role-playing games earlier. This is even more embarrassing than most things. So when we were playing this role-playing game when I was probably 17, 18 with my friend Steve, I would go everywhere in travel. It was called battle dress, but it's essentially combat armor. So if we had to go out of the ship to get milk or something, I would wear full combat armor because I wanted to be prepared, And it's like, that's not how it works. That's the essence of how you write Mary Sue's, is you just don't want anything bad to happen to the person that represents your viewpoint, and so you protect them, and they always win, and they always they're perfect. And you got to bloody their noses, because if you don't, then you've got nothing. Which is why Michael, was it Barnum or Durham or whatever the name of that character on Discovery is, the Spock's unmentioned black stepsister. Nobody remembers her or a thing she says because everything she does is perfect. But James T. Kirk, the Starship Enterprise, is a flawed character. Not deeply flawed, but he's a flawed character. And he's not above laughing at himself, and he makes mistakes, and when he got split in half in the transporter. One of them was a snarling, lusting animal, and the other was just essentially a wimpy crybaby. And those two things together kind of made him into the character that he was. But he wasn't perfect, and because he wasn't perfect, when he won, it was awesome. Um, I'm not saying this is the best moment in the history of movies, but I will say that of all the movies I have ever seen in my life, saw this in a theater, the single most enjoyable moment I have ever had watching a movie ever, and there have been some great moments, but the best one ever is in Wrath of Khan when they're in the Genesis cave and it looks like they've been left there forever, and Kirk is talking about the Kobayashi Maru, and and he finishes the story about Kobayashi Maru, and he says, I don't want to program the computer, blah 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 blah, and then he just sits there for a second and Mr. Spock, we ready? And Spock says, ready, beam aboard, Captain. And he gets, all right, and he stands up and he takes a bite of the apple. I don't like to lose. And I thought, damn, man, that was peak movie enjoyment for me. That moment made me I didn't know whether to laugh or cry or cheer, or I did probably did all things. Probably made a sound like like an exploding cluster balloons. So anyway, that was absolutely epic. It was my favorite moment in a movie theater, by far. So that's what happens when you get to dirty someone up. That moment wouldn't have been as powerful if Kirk hadn't been captured and Kirk hadn't, screwed up on when he first meets the Reliant and all that stuff. That whole movie is about Kirk feeling his age and how he's midlife crisis. His best years are behind him. All of this stuff, and when he comes to that moment, it's just like it's like rebirth. It's freaking awesome. I just adore that. Scene. Yeah, Eric Blake. Listen, kiddo. Jim Kirk was many things, but he was never a Boy Scout. Even better than Indy shooting the swordsman, Dave Big Booty, that is the second greatest moment I've ever had in the theater, and it's a close one. But the Kirk thing went through me like hot knife through butter. So anyway, just to answer your question, Astrasia, and clearly, I mean, this is the number one commandment for writers, not screenwriters. The number one commandment for screenwriters is don't tell them, show them. But the number one commandment for writers is write what you know. Don't write what you know, because it has to have the ring of truth in it. And of all the people I've met in my journeys across the stars, I don't know anybody who is more well equipped to do hard science fiction than me. I got the history, I got the military stuff, I got the astronomy, I understand the physics, I got enough of the biology, I got a bunch of smart people hanging around, and I've learned how to avoid these mistakes of overwriting the character and having everything go well for him and things like that. So, and just being able to spin a yarn is handy. So there you go. So just write the damn story, Bill. I'm working on it, dude. When I say working on it, I mean I need to get off the hamster wheel if I'm going to get off on the other thing. Eric Blake says, by the way, the fan consensus is that Carol Marcus was the little blonde lab technician Gary introduced to Kirk at the Academy. I almost married her. That is a tasty beverage. All right. Samuel Eddy. Hey, Samuel. Speaking of AI videos, this channel, Dreamloop Cinema, has been doing parody videos of Star Trek, Star Wars, and others. It's poking fun at communism. I find it to be very entertaining. Yes, it is absolutely epic. It is absolutely epic. It is on board the Enterprise is a Soviet ship, and Spakovich and Kirkhoff or whatever. It's great. It's absolutely great. I'll put the link in the chats here. Can't say enough about it. It's really really fun. You and you. Thanks for mentioning them. I've talked about it once or twice before, but my favorite thing out there now is very, very unusual. I don't know if many of you have seen it. Um, it's called the Archive in Between, and it is a self-contained universe. It's short films, and all of them are done in this kind of 50s documentary style. And the idea is that there are thousands and thousands of universes, and these ancient gods you can interact with them. And there's this organization called the Pale Lodge, where you can go out and get a contract to kill a god, or kill a titan, and the archive in between is the most original thing I have ever seen on YouTube. It's not for everybody, but it is like watching. Um, it is exactly like watching a 50s. They didn't even call them documentaries; they called them travelogues. I'll put the link in there too. It's just great, and most of these are 2 minutes. Congratulations, you've been selected to enter New Thelos. Welcome to the Great Structure, a broadcast from the Pale Lodge regarding multiplanar gods. It's fantastic. It's just, and the visual stuff. It's all AI, but it's very very simple AI, and and I just love it. Here you go. Um, Highly, highly, highly recommended. Give it a couple, okay? You just don't judge it on the first one. Just give it a couple, and you'll get the feel of it. And I just love these guys. I'd actually like to work for them. Uh, okay, so let's see. Back to the questiones. This has been a message from the Pale Lodge. They've got these included in this universe's lore. There are places on Earth where, like, welcome to Utah National Battlefield Park, and there's nothing but these deserted alien, like, super mech warriors that have been there for 200,000 years. And they say, you'll be able to see this and this. Remember, however, to stay on the path, because those travelers who venture too close to the Titans have often experienced hallucinations, psychic terrors, and it just so matter of fact. I just absolutely just love them. I love them. And the Pale Lodge, the logo for the Pale Lodge, freaking amazing. Anyway, thank you for the link there, Samuel. Appreciate it. And there's a couple of cool questions out there. Marusha Dark says, Bill, if the commandment is right what you know, is this why younger generations don't write good fathers? Because they're largely unknown to them. Yes, exactly, Marusha. And they don't write good relationships because, and I'm talking about almost, well, there are no young men, there are no young conservative men writers, at least not in show business. All of the direct that's out there, all of Star Trek Discovery and all of this are written by either lesbians or far left feminists, females, or soy slurping beta males who are either gay or trying to impress the other chicks with their display of weakness and submission, which isn't effective. And so they don't have any experience, life experiences to work on either. And it's a problem. Pentarkin, as our friend in disguise, says, does it count if you know things from other writers? No, everybody steals things from other writers. The first movies I wrote, when they dragged me out of apartment, the house I was living in when I found out I couldn't go to the Air Force Academy. My friends dragged me out, and I started writing stuff. And I just went through a phase where I just did nothing. We did nothing but do Monty Python sketches, and it was. And people were saying, "Bill, write something original." It's like, I don't want to write something original. I want to do the argument clinic. And these are just phases you have to go through. But yeah, I learned a lot about writing from that stuff. The last thing I'll say about the writing question, which is going back one, it doesn't matter what the movie is. It could be Avengers, Endgame, or whatever it is. Aliens. There's something called a table read, which is when everybody gets. Can I turn up the Twitch volume a bit? I have to turn up all the volumes. Turn up all the volumes. No, you know what? Sorry. I turned down the wrong volume. I was hoping to turn down the volume on the music track. I turned down the wrong one. This should be much better now. Anyway. What was it? It's probably gone forever. Sorry about that, guys. My bad. It'll come back to me sometime tonight. Table read. Thank you, Ace Effendi. Thank you very much. Table read. And so even if it's something like Aliens or Wrath of Khan or whatever it is, even if it's something that's a huge vision and it depends on massive visuals and effects and everything, the table read is when they first get the scripts and the entire cast sits around a table and they read the script aloud for the first time. Usually, almost every time, every actor has already got their copy of the script, but this is the first time that they all get to read it aloud and listen to other actors, and they get to play around a little bit. And so the table read is the most fundamental level of the story. There's no ornamentation. The actors are pretty much glibbing the lines, which means that they're just reading them, not really acting them. There's certainly no special effects, there's no music, nothing. But my point is, Wrath of Khan works as a table read. If you just sat down there and watched Shatner and Ricardo Montalban and everybody reading their lines, and you've got one person who's reading the stage directions. Kirk goes to the turbolift, beams down to the surface of the planet. Kirk, and then William Shatner says his lines. If the table read isn't riveting, then the movie's not going to be any good. Every good movie has a table read that is absolutely phenomenal. Copy Shinato says, Colony's AI table read? Absolutely. One of the great things about this technology, unlike the CGI technology, which required for the motion capture thing, you had to use a certain iPhone 11 or higher, and the facial motion capture stuff. The great thing about the Colonies is I can talk to people like Gary Sinise or James Woods or whatever and ask them if they would like to be in this and pay them money because they're professionals. But I wouldn't have to pay them a lot of money because they can just do it they can just read the lines into the iPhone. Could do it on Zoom or Discord. It would be backstage stuff. It'd be part of the things for. By the way, I'm going to include every member at BillWhittle.com in the if we can get this crowdsourcing off the ground. They're all going to be considered to be members of the crowdsourcing thing, get all the benefits of the crowdsourcing thing, and it really was a rather good idea, if I do say so myself. I found software that is really good at recreating faces. So at a certain level, we'll put you in the movie. You can be the customs inspector, or you could be the pilot, or whatever. So that'd be cool. And this pilot episode, which is what the fundraiser, let me just come back to your Capital Geek in a second. Capital G Geek. Right now the plan is, and I'm pitching this to a bunch of people, I'm trying to raise enough private capital, $200,000-300,000, in order to get what I need to do a successful crowdsource for the pilot episode, which is probably about 700 or 800 grand. That would be that would allow me to write this thing full time and hire a few people and get the elements needed for the crowdsource thing. As far as the crowdsource thing goes, I think we're actually in pretty good shape. We're well past the golden age of crowdsourcing, but I've got celebrity endorsements. I've got a really good sizzle reel. I've got, there's a movie out there that they're trying to raise money for now. Starfish, I think it's called. It's shown up in my Facebook thing. I wish them the best of luck, but it's one of those. There's lots of these on YouTube. It's a science fiction story, and it's a science fiction story about two people sitting in an apartment talking, and that's not really what I want to do. I want to look into what Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes is doing for his crowdfunding of Twisted Plots. He's killing it at the moment, so I think it can be done. So you crowdsource the pilot, and then with the pilot, you'll get the people. If you deliver, the people that went in on the pilot will go in on the first season, and then you have to go get more people, but you've got a finished show now. So it's really genuinely bootstrapping yourself up, and that's the plan. And The Chosen is my they're the they're my Arnie Saknussemm. And anybody who catches that reference, I'm impressed. They're my Arnie Saknussemm on this journey to the center of the universe. So you do your pilot, then you do the pilot to raise money for the first season. If you have a really good first season, then the second season you can probably double or triple the budget, and it subscribes real quickly. So I'm going to actually check with Chet or Grok or something, because I want to get the details right. But if memory serves, Dallas raised $6 million for the first season of The Chosen. I think he raised $22 million for the second season. The first season was a bit of work, but the first season of The Chosen was so good that when he went out to get like $22 million for the second season, he subscribed it in like 4 or 5 days. And then the final season, I think it's the sixth season, they went looking for $70 million. And I heard anecdotally that the guy from Hobby Lobby just wrote him a check. Beautiful thing about crowdsourcing is, unlike every other form of movie deal, if you crowdsource it, you're not in the hole. You don't have to pay people back. You don't have to pay your investors back. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make any money. As long as the people that put money into the crowdsourcing thing are happy. Let's say you contribute $100 to the Colonies Project, and we deliver a pilot episode that you think is really good. We don't have to pay that $100 back. We don't have to climb out of that hole. Now, again, The Chosen is an incredible model for me, because I watched. You also don't have to make anything if it doesn't get funded. Well, if I take money from private investors to produce the sizzle reel for the crowdfunding thing, which is what I'm trying to do now, then it's either a donation or you can get them back out of the production budget of the first season, or whatever the case may be. Roadrunner says you do have to pay them, your donors back. You pay them with a finished show. Yes, that's right. If you finish the show and they're happy, then they'll go around again. Somebody was talking about this. It was Red Letter Media. I forget his name now. The guy who plays Mr. Plinkett, and they were talking about why doesn't Star Wars just charge $100 per ticket? And everybody said $100 per ticket. That's ridiculous. I said, no, it's a genius idea. Before Star Wars was ruined, every Star Wars fan in the country would have paid $100 for a ticket to Star Wars. Are you kidding? They would have paid $100 for. They would have paid thousands of dollars for a ticket for Star Wars. So, the thing that's cool about it is, if you let's say for the sake of the argument that The Chosen has spent I think they probably spent about $150 million on 6 seasons. That's a ballpark, right? So let's say you've got The Chosen, and it's your intellectual property, and you go to Netflix, and Netflix says, well, it cost you $150 million to make this, but we're only going to pay you $10 million. Well, that's $10 million of pure profit, because the $150 million needed to make The Chosen doesn't have to be paid back, because they're not investors. The people that donated the money to pay The Chosen are over the moon happy with the amount of money they spent. So there we go. We have ongoing Monty Python routines going on in the YouTube comment section. Sure sign that the content coming out of the Stratosphere Studio is nothing but the highest quality in terms of interest. But anyway, that's basically the plan. So I'm just looking for, I'm actually gonna go into this because it's still pretty early. I'll get to all the questions tonight. So let me just stop for a second with the questions, and let me just tell you the crowdsourcing strategy. So this is my analysis of it, and I'm telling you this because I would love to hear people shooting holes in this. Actually, I prefer to hear people say, my God, it's absolutely brilliant. But in any event, this is my analysis. So crowdsourcing is not easy. I talked to Phelan McAleer, is a fairly close friend of mine. He and his wife, Ann McHenry, raised money for Gosnell, the story of that abortionist in Philadelphia who, murdered 6,000 kids or something and had body parts, hidden in, closets and things like that. It was a horror story. And they went to, I'll get to Eric, I promise. So they went out to crowdsource this thing in 2015, and they were looking for $2.4 million, and they got it. And I talked to Phelan about this, and the first words out of Phelan's mouth were, when that crowdsourcing window opens, and usually 4 to 6 weeks is about the window, he says every single day of that 4 to 6 weeks, it is your full-time job to get people to this thing. I said, got it, man. He gave me some good advice. He said, what we did and what a lot of people do is, let's say we open the crowdsourcing on Monday, we do a soft open the previous Thursday night, so that when people come on Monday, there's already money in the bank account. Nothing succeeds like success. I said, that's absolutely brilliant. And so my analysis of the chance to succeed at this comes down to a bunch of things. So hear me out and let me know if I've forgotten something or if I got something wrong. First thing that seems obvious to me is the smaller amount of money you're asking for, the more likely you are to get it. It's easier to raise $600,000 than it is to raise $6 million, and much easier than it is to raise $600 million. So the smallest amount of money that'll do the job and get the job finished, because you don't get to go back you don't get to say, hey, we're $4 million over budget. So you want to keep the amount of money as low as possible. That's number one. The second thing is, do you have a pre-built audience that is inclined to this kind of thing? For Gosnell, they had a very vociferous and highly motivated, passionate audience that really wanted to put out something that was a pro-life message. So do we have that? And I think we do. I think the science fiction worldwide community is huge. We haven't seen anything original since Star Wars. We haven't seen anything original and satisfying since Star Wars, Star Trek and Star Wars. There's been a lot of other shows, there's Space Above Beyond and The Expanse and, Andromeda and all this, Stargate, but nothing moved into that space that way. And I think the reason for that is because they didn't have this overarching vision that was in tune with the times. And I think we not only got a good science fiction story, I think we got a science fiction story that is sailing on the pop culture wave of, we're tired of the girl boss, we're tired of the feminists, we're tired of spaceships. The Enterprise is gonna shoot photon torpedoes at a ship that's 75 yards away and miss. So it's got to be something new, but it's got to be something big and hopeful, and you got to feel good. You got to like it. You got to feel good about it. So I think we got that. Then you start getting into some of the nuts and bolts, and then the question becomes: if you're thinking about contributing to this, now you have to ask yourself, can this team? Let me rephrase that. There's another step, and that's sizzle. Okay, so what is it that they're trying to do? How does it look? If I was trying to raise money for a science fiction film that was a apartment conversation between two people, then and that's what I saw. The last time I saw a crowdfunded movie was they did a scene, two people at a restaurant talking, and I thought, well, you know, that's not exactly the kind of thing that I would contribute to. But I think what we showed with the bumpy ride home and things like that is that we have the ability to just do absolutely just stunning, freaking stunning um, visuals and scenes. And in the course of having talked about it on Stratosphere Studio mostly, but Stratosphere Lounge as well, we've got an entire cadre of people here who are launching a letter writing campaign to me, trying to save a character that hasn't been written or seen yet. So we've got the audience, we've got the unique approach, we certainly have the sizzle. Then you get into things like, okay, credibility. Can this person and this team pull it off? Well, I've done 4 long format series for Daily Wire. All 4 of them went number 2 worldwide in terms of Apple Podcasts in all categories. So got the storytelling chops. But the biggest thing I've got as far as credibility goes is I've got celebrity endorsements. I have no doubt whatsoever that I can get Gary Sinise and John Voight and Mike Rowe and almost certainly James Woods and so on to not only say, hey, this guy Bill's an awesome guy and he can pull it off, and I can't wait to be in it. So I think that covers a lot of the credibility problem. I gave serious thought to there's 2 ways to do this. Mechanically, one is where you get to keep whatever you raise, and the other one is if you don't get to the threshold, you give the money back. And I think we have to go with version 2 because it's dishonest otherwise. If you say you need $600,000 and you get $500,000, what if you get 200,000 or 100,000 and you just keep it? No. This is the money back guarantee. We either get there or we don't. Which is why you want a low number. But the main thing, the single most important thing is, by far, is how many eyeballs can you put on the project. That's just rock bottom equation. It doesn't matter how good it is if nobody comes and sees the crowdsourcing page. It doesn't matter how much sizzle you got if nobody sees it. None of that matters. You got to get eyeballs there. So you've got to have money for marketing. You got to be able to, and you got to be really, really smart with your marketing, and you got to do all the free publicity you can. I think I would move mountains to get on Drinker's Chaser, and Nerdrotic and Doomcock and all the rest of them. And I'd also do the conservative route. I'd try to get on Glenn Beck. I'd try to get on Greg Gutfeld. Gutfeld's nighttime show is probably not the right place, but all of these guys. And just hustle. And then, just really push it. Will's going to be around. Will's going to be around for a long time. Will starts the story at he's about 8 or 9, and he's gonna. Well, he might live to be 60. Who knows? But if it turns out that he doesn't, it's not going to happen before he's 16 or 17. So yeah, he's going to be around for 3 seasons. I'll just come out and say it. I don't see any way to avoid it. In season 3, he's going to start. He's a brilliant kid. In season 3, he's going to be sitting in his room. He wants to join the Navy, and and he's no longer an adorable kid. He's starting to get in his teens, getting a little bit gawkier and stuff, and he's going to hear, like, he's going to hear his parents arguing out in the next room, and and he's going to open the door, and there's not going to be anybody there. And I did a lot of research on this, and he's gonna develop schizophrenia, and that is really a horrible thing. And that tends to have an onset in your, for males, it's in your mid to late teens, and they're going to medicate him, and he's going to, I've got it pretty much planned out, but he'll be there for 3 seasons, and I just think that's so tragic. He's I'll tell you who he is. I've got his name almost right. Hang on a second. He's going to have a computer file as this disease progresses, and it's going to be called hang on. I want to make sure I get this name right. Yep. He's going to have a file, and he's going to call it Operation Oats. And I've got a scene that is just it's perfect. It's just really, really heartbreaking, and in a Camelot way. It's heartbreaking, but it's also inspiring. So there you go. Now, I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me. Maybe I'll be able to start a campaign like raise $1 million, and I'll keep Will alive for another season. But in any event, bad things have to happen to people, and they got to be big things. The secret of like the golden age of TV, which is started with The Sopranos. It's all become too much streaming stuff now, but The Sopranos and Deadwood, Breaking Bad, right? All of these things. You've got to be able to kill off major characters. You're not going to kill the leads, but you got to kill off. When major characters die in a episodic format, it raises the stakes because they don't have their plot armor. If you're killing off major characters and you see a gunfight or a conflict or something, you think, look, every time Kirk, Spock, and McCoy beam down to the planet, we know they're coming back. We know it. We're not so sure about the guys in red jerseys, but we know that they're coming back. There's no world where they don't come back. And so that really lessens the amount of suspense, but I remember one movie that just blew my mind, and I've never seen anything like it before since, and that was To Live and Die in L.A. It was a buddy action movie, cop movie, about 2 guys that work for the Secret Service, if I remember correctly. I only saw it once, and they were going after counterfeiters. And the movie was probably 2/3 of the way through, and the 2 of these guys have been working together. They're on the trail of this bad guys. I think they were in a gym or something. And they're in a gym, and they find this guy, and this guy shoots, and he kills one of the 2 partners, shoots him in the head, and he drops dead. And I went, what? Are you kidding me? I got the scene written, man. I got it written. And then the question is, what do you do after that? Do you have another kid? I've got a solution to that too. But yeah, you got to like him first. and I think he's a likable kid. I really, you know, there's of all the people I would like to, yeah, do you clone him? She wants to. You know, Lisa wants to, but no. Of all the people I would like to talk to in show business, and I don't think this is going to happen because I believe he's like a really, like, even more liberal than real liberally liberal. But I'd love to just sit and have like a couple beers with Billy Mooney. If I could talk to anybody, that's who I would like to talk to. I think it'd be really freaking fun for me to sit down and have a couple-hour conversation with Will Robinson, because more than anybody, he really, I mean, James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise has been kind of my role model, but as a boy, I just wanted to be Will Robinson, and I thought I was Will Robinson. So anyway, back to that. Okay, so that's the crowdfunding plan, and you do a small raise to finish a pilot. The pilot episode is actually difficult because that has to be a standalone movie. It's got to be a standalone thing, and at the same time, it's got to be something that just has you begging. I don't even know if it needs to be standalone, honestly. What's really more important is that you finish this thing and you just want to, come on. It's like when I saw Fellowship of the Rings, and I went into that very skeptical. I wasn't a fantasy fan, you know, and whole sword and sorcery thing. I'm a science fiction guy. I don't know. The second that the voice, you know, the world is changing, and then this is first battle against Sauron, and I'm like, I'm in. And every single time, at the end of Fellowship, at the end of Two Towers, when you see them descending the rocks and they're getting closer and closer to Mordor, and the screen fades to black, and it's like, how long do I have to wait? My God, you know, I'll pay $1,000 for a movie. I'll pay $5,000 for a movie ticket if I can see it now. But you have to wait. Eric says, Chekhov's gun. Whatever you have to set up, you have to pay it off. Roadrunner says, hurry up and take my money. I will take it. Yes, I love Galadriel's voiceover. She's terrific, and that's why that movie is. Last Independent Thinker says there are websites that deal with movie tropes. Well, thank you very much. That's very, very kind. I'm going to try this. Daisa Kibara. Do you like the game Splinter Cell? God bless you. I'm a Japanese Christian. Hello, Daisa. Welcome. We're very glad to have you, and we're always happy to see people from around the world. Please come back. We love having all these perspectives. It's unbelievably flattering for me, and I have the I cannot tell you how much respect and admiration I have for the Japanese people. I think they are just magnificent, really magnificent, and I thought so long before I became a big student of the Pacific War. And the more I learned about that war, the more I grew to admire the Japanese people. I think they're just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And there's so much about there's so much we can learn from the Japanese, you know, in terms of how things work well. So anyway, there you go. The Random 1627 says, sounds like you would enjoy Game of Thrones, at least the earlier seasons. You know, I saw the first couple of episodes of Game of Thrones, and I couldn't get any further with it because it had just come off of Lord of the Rings, and I looked at Game of Thrones and I thought, this armor looks generic to me, the banners look generic to me, everything of this thing just looks like generic this, generic that. He's trying so hard to be Tolkien, he's not Tolkien, and so on. There used to be a page about me on tvtropes.com. I did not know that. I didn't know I was a trope. Anyway, welcome. So we're glad to have you. All right, back to the questions, believe it or not. Boy, we got more than I thought. Capital G Geek, greeting from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Happy Marine Corps birthday, unless the show gets postponed. I thought Marine Corps birthday was April 1st. Oh, it was there specifically for Afterburner. Okay. Wasn't the Marine Corps, wasn't that April 1st? Um, anyway, uh, happy birthday, Marine Corps. Uh, there's talk of eliminating the filibuster, which the Dems will do the next time they get the chance. If we do it now and we actually have the support of Graham and McConnell, how much could they do? I know that they could eliminate the 1934 and 1968 Gun Control Act. The Federal Reserve is a law, not a constitutional amendment. Same for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the 1965 Immigration Act, etc. What would you have them do to make the most difference in the next 13th month? Murshidar convinced me about this. I wanted to keep it 11-9. I guess that was a joke, an April Fool's joke. Happy birthday to the Marine Corps. But Marisha is absolutely right. I think these things that were there served a purpose, and I'm not in favor of taking them away. But Harry Reid pushed the nuclear option button, and now it's like, okay, yes, get rid of the filibuster and ram every frickin' thing through that you can in 18 months. Everything. They won't. Well, nobody knows what's going to happen in the midterms. History says they're likely to get the House. It seems unlikely but possible that they get the Senate, but they're not going to get the presidency. So the best they'll be able to do is stop us. So we got to get it done now. It's not in the Constitution, so bye. Thanks for the fish. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, just get rid of it and legislate everything. This president executive order thing is very convenient. I'm against executive orders on principle. I don't like it when the Dems do it. I don't like it when we do it. But once again, after Guadalcanal, I'm not playing by Marquis of Queensberry's rules here. So I say yes, absolutely do it. Nuke them till they glow, and get everything you can in there. So I couldn't agree more. Is MAGA sufficiently ballsy to run the board? I don't know. Marusha says we need to make court packing illegal, fix SCOTUS to 9 justices forever. Problem is that is a constitutional issue. The Constitution says that the Supreme Court must have a Chief Justice. It doesn't say anything about the number of justices. And I don't see how you limit it. I'm completely in favor of limiting to 9, 100%, but I don't know how you do that without a constitutional amendment. So, okay. Moving on, Marusha Dark topic, cultural shift. Bill, I know you're not the biggest fan of anime and manga, citing stylistic concerns, but hear me out. Okay. You may recall some months ago about talking about how you shifted to taking an interest in gaming after realizing that a handful of gaming channels blew away the viewership metrics of the entirety of the conservative punditry. The conclusion you drew at the time was that for you to get far more cultural influence by making culture, you get more cultural influence by making culture than talking politics. We all know politics is downstream of culture. Well, I present to you the highest selling comics of all time. With a link. Number 1 is One Piece by Ichiro Oda. Yeah, that just glancing at it, and my very limited knowledge of anime, but this reminds me of Astro Boy. I used to watch Astro Boy when I was a kid because it was on in Philadelphia. If there's anybody from Philadelphia area my age, when I would come to Pennsylvania once a year to visit the States for 2 weeks and stay with my cousins in Plymouth Meeting, we would watch Wee Willie Winky's Colorful Cartoon Show every afternoon, and one of the things they had was Astro Boy. And even then I thought, this is, I don't know, man. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. What it was them trying to save money by essentially using a still cell and just having repeating, background plates go by. But I do remember the look of it, and if I hover over One Piece, there's something about the mouths that looks really familiar. But obviously, it's sold 578 million copies. Asterix. Asterix is amazing. I love Asterix. I love it. I love it. I used to read it, and the other one. Oh, come on. I'm not gonna look. Oh, come on. I see his face. Tintin. Um, Tintin on the Moon. I loved them both. Asterix was really funny. I loved Asterix. 393 million. Peanuts. Remember Peanuts? Never particularly liked Peanuts. I just never did. Case closed. Dragon Ball, Naruto, Adventures of Tintin. There's Tintin already. Yeah, I love Tintin. I have very fond memories of Tintin. Slam Dunk, Kochikami, Diabolic, Ground Shinchan. I will tell you one. I will tell you one that I actually did like is Attack on Titan, and I saw the live action movie of it. Attack on Titan was so frickin' bizarre that I really liked it. Uh, Daisa Kakibara says they should make a movie about Chune Sugihara. He was a Japanese Christian who saved thousands of Jewish people from the Nazis in Eastern Europe. Yes, people like that need to be uh, celebrated. Celebrated. Um, but Attack on Titan, I just like the idea of these monsters coming over the wall and eating people. And the live action it's horrifying. It's just so freaking, it's horrifying in the same way that 40K is. And I hated 40K until I actually read it. I mean, the style and the stubby, ugly airplanes and the stubby, ugly guns, because they had to do it for the little miniatures, and everything. But then I got into the lore, and I was like, oh man, this is epic. I got into the lore because of Oculus Obscura. He's a 40K YouTube channel, and he does the whole thing as a remembrancer. That's their word for historian. One Piece fandom on 4chan gave us the phrase, the real treasure is the friends we make along the way. A 4chaner went, after all the years we've devoted to this franchise, it better not end up with that stupid Aesop that the real treasure is the friends we make along the way. Bleach, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Kingdom, Astro Boy. That's Astro Boy, all right. I'd forgotten he didn't have a shirt. Known in Japan as Mighty Atom. 1952, man. To 1968, yeah. Casper the Friendly Ghost. Just as I was starting to feel myself maybe drifting along this way, along comes Casper the Friendly Ghost. I just wanted to wring his Pillsbury Doughboy neck. Casper the Friendly Ghost, the friendliest ghost you know. Okay, these are global stats for all titles above 100 million units. You'll notice that the only Western comics on that list are things like Asterix, Garfield, Tintin, and Peanuts. Long-standing serials from newspapers. Not a Marvel or DC title appears in the top 30. That is actually interesting. All the rest are Japanese manga, many of which aren't even a decade old. In fact, the top-selling comic of all time is One Piece, which has almost as many sales as Spider-Man and Captain America combined. That is astonishing, no question. Most of the manga on this list are what's known as shonen comics, meaning targeted at young males. Things like Dragon Ball, One Piece, Demon Slayer, Naruto, Bleach, etc. I can name a few more that aren't on the list, but aren't that far behind either, such as Full Metal Alchemist, Hunter x Hunter, Death Note, and Yu Yu Hakusho. Metrics for their anime counterparts are similar. All this to say, do you think it might be worthwhile to take a good hard look at what anime and manga are doing right if the content is cultural influence? I have some thoughts on what I think they might have going for you, what they might have going for them if you're interested. My first thought on this was I would have no problem whatsoever if somebody wanted to serialize the colonies as anime. I just don't know if it fits the format. But yes, anime is huge. It's huge, absolutely huge. It's incredible, and it's not like I don't like animation. There's some animation I like, but I don't have any interest in producing stories through animation. But yeah, I mean, I want to see the first thing I'd like to see spun out of this. They're talking about merchandise. I would like to see the colonies produce a space combat game, and it would be very realistic. Engagement ranges would be 60, 70,000 kilometers. I hate to say kilometers, but some things you just have to face. It's just inevitable. They say it on Star Trek, so the original series. There's just no fighting it. Except for in aviation, I refuse to give my height in meters. I will not do it. We're at 62,000 feet. We're not at some weakling altitude made out of meters. I can't stand the metric system. And the reason I hate it is because it's so clinical. Every time I hear people talking about the metric system, I don't know, man. I just see guys in white lab coats with, German accents. They used miles in the original series. I heard them say meters. As a pilot also, meters, what meters? I think they use meters in Europe and other decadent failing cultures where there are two kinds of countries in the world: those that use the metric system and those that have flags on the moon. Nebulous Fleet Command is a fairly hard space combat sim, says our friend George. Let's have a look. Nebulous. But I'm a big. I like the traditionalism of miles, and I'll tell you, a great unit of distance is a league. A league, that's just sounds so freaking cool, man. A league is 3 miles, if I remember correctly. And fathom is a cool tune. These words have texture. They got nice woody sound. They're not tinny like metric system. It's very tinny. Kilometers, meters, liters, tinny. Hurts my ears. Woody sounds like gallon and furlong and league and bushel. That's a nice woody word, bushel. Get the idea. What am I looking for? Back to the questions. What was the link? Hang on. Where was it? Everything in parsecs, furlongs. And the metric system in Nebulous Fleet Command in temperature is absurd. Somebody really got that down. Somebody said that I don't remember what it was, but it was just really just super tight. In the Fahrenheit system, 0 degrees is cold and 100 degrees is hot. In centigrade, 0 degrees is cold and 100 degrees is fatal. And in Kelvin, 0 degrees is cold and 100 degrees is frozen solid. I remember this Nebulous Fleet Command. I just want to see that real quick. Hang on. Oh, come on. Come on. I have to open a tab or else it just doesn't happen here. Oh, it looks like China's got some astronauts trapped in their space station. Do you hear that? That looks kind of cool, but they've got carriers and things like that. I'll check it out. Anything with Newtonian physics is cool, and that whole thing is about ranges. I spent a lot of time studying the idea of stealth in space, which is impossible except that you can pull it off, but you got to know what you're doing. It involves inner shell of liquid hydrogen, outer shell of liquid helium, a screen that floats in front of the ship that not only masks what's left of your heat signature, but also is reproducing the background stars. I think it's possible. but I'm looking forward to having a look at that. Okay, moving on here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is the colonies animable? It doesn't seem like there's enough kinetic action, but I may be wrong. Because I would gladly license that out, cheerfully. But the space combat game, this thing would be cool, and not just a space combat game. It actually, as a computer game goes, it's really, really, really simple. It would allow us to travel down the Stargate routes that are in canon. It would allow us to design our own ships that would have to have centrifuges and fuel tanks and all the rest of it. So it'd be a little bit like Kerbal Space Program. It would allow us to visit the actual planets and representations of what they are in the show and be constantly updating, and would allow us to do space combat for real. And I think that would be a fun game. And if you can get this, see, the whole purpose here is to, I'm trying to raise private capital so that I can a couple of like low six figures, so that I can work on the stuff I need for the pilot crowdfunding full time. The pilot gets crowdfunded. You crowdfund the first season, and then you're on your way. On your way. If I can get this in front of Elon Musk, I bet you anything he'd cut me a check for $1 million. Which is, he's going to pay himself $1 trillion. I'd be going way too low. Air Techie says my space warfare expertise is at your disposal, Bill. Thank you, Air Techie. We'll have ourselves a little, several little Zoom calls about that when the time comes. And it's fun to talk about bursting bubbles and things. I think there's a pretty compelling argument to be made for a sort of a space battleship, because since you're detectable anywhere, and I'll tell you my theory about an actual stealth ship, but essentially, just because of the heat signature, you're detectable anywhere. You detect you from Earth out at the orbit of Pluto. If you're, what's the background temperature of space? Is it 4-5 degrees Kelvin, something like that? What's the speed of light at miles per hour? At 186,262 miles an hour. And so you could make a case for, no, you just get a big old ship and you just want power. And you reach out and touch somebody. Look at Gundam, especially Gundam Seed and Gundam Wing. I will. Seriously, Marusha, that work you did on the AI thing, I put it off for a while, but when I opened it up, I couldn't believe my eyes. I really need to talk to you about it, because what Marusha Dark did was I don't know if you derived that, yes, per second. Sorry, did I say miles per hour? I'm sorry. 186,262 miles per second. What Marusha did was just break out exactly what you would need to have AI do movies. And I talked with ChatGPT about this, and this is the kind of thing ChatGPT is actually pretty good for. What's the state of the art now? What are they working on? And I was talking about having AI being able to import a 3D mesh, and you would identify this 3D object, and you would call this rover. So it uploads rover. It generates a diffusion landscape because it's so good at looking realistic, and then you grab this thing that you've uploaded called rover, and you drag a little container box and you put the rover where you want it and rotate it the way you want it, plunk it down there. The AI then looks at the 3D points on the object. It could be a simplified object, and now it knows what the back of it looks like, so if it comes rolling past you, it doesn't have to invent it. AI video is two-dimensional. It doesn't know what's on the backside of a building. All it does is statistically predict what is likely to be there. That's why sometimes you'll see, like on an follow this alien across or something, and it'll pan, and it'll keep panning, and now the AI is trying to generate it, and you've got this kind of, this rocky landscape, and sometimes you'll pan into like a beach resort or something, because it doesn't know what's there. I don't remember who made the comment. It Mr. Delay, somebody in YouTube was talking about the aliens that I just showed, and they said stay away from the translucent gas bags. Go for the look of the one that was too heavy, and that comment went right into my head, and it's stuck around there, and it's like it's just been bouncing around in my head for the last hour and a half. I can't wait to try it. I'm going to rearrange the prompt because that jellyfish feeling has to go. I'm going to go for a prompt that's more like a airship, something like that. I'll keep trying until I get it right. They should make an engine that AI can render full 3D. The perfect solution is to essentially take a CGI universe where you can move the camera, adjust the focal length, keyframe for the beginning of the rover, keyframe for the end of the rover, set it up exactly. You can look down at it from the top, set it up like CGI, and then have AI render it frame by frame, because the AI rendering is not trying to fake what light is doing. The AI rendering is looking at billions. The reason that AI is so great with faces, it is indistinguishable. It really is. It is indistinguishable, and it's so good because there are billions of photos that have been uploaded, and the AI just looks at all of them. So when somebody smiles, the way those wrinkles happen, perfect. When a woman is walking, the way her earrings move, perfect. Steve Young AOC says, I saw an F-18 on a flight deck, nose on. It turned around and had 3 exhausts. I did a rendering of a Fletcher class destroyer, which has 2 funnels fore and aft, and as the thing turned, the AI put them side by side because it just didn't know. But CGI is never ever gonna catch AI in terms of human realism. The fusion is to have the precision. Actually, ChatGPT said CGI is all mind and no heart, and AI is all heart and no mind. I think that's pretty good. All right, let's get back to the questions here. Roadrunner, greetings again, friend Bill. Did you have a chance to review your Grokkapedia entry for accuracy? I did not. Wow. This is freaking awesome. Jeez. This is fantastic. Thank you very much. This is great. I can't wait to read it. The guy looks awesome. You ought to give him his money. I think he can make an excellent film. I'm looking forward to it. I'm Grokkapedia all the way, man. That's seemed really fair. The negative stuff seemed fair. So there we go. Thank you very much. I have not checked it out, but there it is. Great. Thank you very much, Roadrunner. GK Masterson is back. Hooray! Hey, Bill, I'll be hitting the road again tomorrow. She became a professional truck driver. It's pretty cool. Just want to say hello again and thank you for offering to help me with my media business plan that will lead to us eventually owning everything and retiring to our own private moons. Thanks, GK. You're welcome, GK. Be careful out there. Download the podcasts. Or actually, that doesn't work, does it? In any event, it's really good to see you, and we missed you, and I'm glad you're back. And have a good time on the road, and be careful out there. Braden Higby, howdy from Idaho. I love my Idaho. One of the biggest cultural changes I've seen as a result of Trump's comeback is that cars can be cool again. Dodge is rushing a twin-turbo straight-six version of the Challenger into production significantly sooner than originally planned. Rumor Hope says that they're also working on a V8 version. GM has apparently teased the next generation of Camaro, although no word on it if it'll have a gas engine. If they don't have a gas engine on the Camaro, they'll sell 7 of them. Ford, to its credit, never halted the V8 Mustang. These are all a little too cyber in styling for my tastes, but since I'm priced out of the classics, I'm just happy to see that its nameplates continue. On that note, how's the bitchin' Camaro? Also, has anything happened on the Council of Gen Z? No, nothing has happened on the Council of Gen Z yet. The bitchin' Camaro is a 2018 bitchin' Camaro, which was the last year that they made it before they rounded out the front end of the thing and turned it into a girl's car. So I like my 2018. Of all the things I planned to do to it, that I had planned to do to it, I got about 80% of the way. Got new tires and rims. Got the I installed all this myself. The LED taillights, LED headlights, lots and lots of trim things and so on. I've got a bumper in my garage that I need to a brand new one that I got to put on there. My main problem is that the electrical system, I thought I could just get Camaro SS doors and just plug them in. But I've got a HUD. It's a standalone little HUD. It doesn't project onto the screen like the other one, but it's got more information on it, and it looks more like a fighter plane, especially when you're walking up to the car. So yeah, of course it has a HUD. How could you have a HUD? The next Camaro is an electric SUV, like the Mustang SUV. That'll be the end of the world. So I've got to finish it. But if I actually get a chance where I actually have some money sitting around, then I will probably either see if I can talk my friend Phil, the electrical engineer, to come out for 2 days, and I have to rewire the entire thing. I'd have to change the radio entertainment module, and then I'd have to the harness is for sale. I'd have to rewire the whole thing because that way the door strips will light up, and they don't light up right now. I thought all I had to do was change the door, but no, I got to change the whole electrical system. Eric says, take a cue from Quentin Tarantino. Take a Camaro to the Hollywood stunt crew to give it a super solid frame and make it 100% death proof. Yep, that's great. Okay, we got one to go, but I'm getting kind of tired, so I think I'm going to call it a night. We'll get to Eric next week and see if we can. I'm just waiting for the explosion sound. Yeah, that's long enough. Eric Blake, tonight, the case of the $1 trillion triumph. Bill, remember when the corrupt Delaware judge struck down Elon's financial reward package? How do they strike that down? What business does a judge have to say how much money a guy can get paid? The package that had been approved by the vast majority of Tesla shareholders, by the way, it was a $1 trillion paycheck. That would make him the first trillionaire in the world. And he would be, that'd make him what? No less than twice as rich as the next closest person, and probably 3 times richer. Well, now that the Tesla company has moved to much more politically friendly Texas, the shareholders have struck back and done so beautifully. Observe, Epoch Times, Tesla shareholders approve Elon Musk's $1 trillion pay package. Now, here's why I bring this up. As you know, I've been following the story of the current Disney leadership, and as you may recall, I was very keen on Nelson Peltz's bid for the board seats, which Elon himself expressed considerable interest in financially backing. One thing I'll say about this, Elon Musk, I remember when, long before Elon Musk appeared, I said, man, if I was Bill Gates or something and I had $1 billion or $20 billion and they said it cost $5 billion to go to Mars, then I'd go to Mars twice and I'd come back and I'd have $10 billion. This is how it works, man. This is how it works. He is, he's going to spend that money on the future. The future. I just cannot say this strongly enough. Elon Musk has done more than just done reusable rockets and electric cars and all this. He has reopened the future. He's reopened the future. He's given people like me hope. Gotham Coach says Elon Musk makes $23 million an hour. I'm going to say, Elon, if you could give me the money that you make between 3:30 and 4:30 in the morning on one day, I will change the culture forever, and I will have people signing up for the Mars colony in a way that you cannot imagine. And I bet he would take that bet if I could get it to him. No, we'll get him the link. When we get that colony thing up, I'm going to send him the link. I think he's going to pour it into everything. He's got like 10 kids, spending all his money to make sure they have a better future. The thing about the USA is that everyone has the possibility to become a trillionaire, even if you were born in a poor family. This is the American dream. It takes somebody from Japan to see this. Half of the people here, what should I call you? Should I call you Daisa? half of the people here get it, and half of the people don't. And I would cheerfully trade the half of the Americans that are socialist losers, whiners, crybabies, and nothing but envy buckets for people like you. I would trade them 1-to-1, and we'd be mining diamonds on Pluto in 5 years. Now here's why I bring us up back to Disney. Of course, the Delaware incident right happened in the middle of that, but Disney or not, this package solidifies our starman. Now the world's first trillionaire will have the financial ability to determine the fate of many a cultural institution. That's if you have $1 trillion, you can buy YouTube. And as he said way back about his association with Mr. Peltz, well, I'm just hanging out with friends looking for companies to acquire. Alas, only $1 trillion isn't quite enough for the hostile takeover of Google. But that out of the way, what institutions would you most like to see under the sway of Mr. Musk? Which ones are most important in the culture war? If I was Elon Musk, I would go heavily into space. If I wouldn't presume. I mean, I don't worship the guy. I just deeply, deeply admire him. And he's getting older, and he wants to, he wants to land on Mars. If I could influence. That's not the question, but if I could influence Elon in one way, I would say, Elon, the path to Mars is through the moon. You can't just go around the moon. Go through the moon. By the way, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, as going through the moon. When you set up these, I hate to call them Stargate lines, but that's really what they are. They're going to take ionized hydrogen gas on Earth, and they're going to go out some distance. They're going to inject this into a magnetic field, and these are going to be quantum entangled with the stuff back on Earth. And when all these things are aligned with super high-powered lasers, then it's going to basically say the space is the same thing. But you got to get out there slower than light. And I've been thinking about slower than light ship, a 70% speed of light ship. And these journeys are, because you don't have to start all of them from Earth. So we're talking about a 10-year trip. And if you put these people in hibernation, and it's not going to be magic hibernation. They're going to have needles in their arms. They're going to have electrical sensors to stimulate the muscles. They're going to, have breathing tubes and feeding tubes and all this stuff. But what was it about these slower than light ships? Come on, Bill. Come on. What was it? Oh, I was thinking about this. If you look at where we were 250 years ago, we were in the age of tall ships with canvas sails. We did not have any electronics. I believe at the time of Benjamin Franklin, there was some kind of a bottle, like a vacuum bottle that could hold a static electrical charge. That was all that we understood about electrical stuff and so on. So no magic in the colonies, right? Or at least you're allowed to break one law. A Leyden jar. See, I got smart people here. And I'm going to go with this whole quantum information holography thing, where I've been given serious thought, very serious thought. I haven't talked about this much, to say that by the time of the colonies, the simulation theory of the universe is accepted as standard model physics. And that what these guys are essentially doing is looking for ways to, they're looking for cheat codes, basically. But in any event, and I lost it again. Come on, come on. Oh, so there's no anti-gravity drive. There's no warp drive. It's I did the numbers, and it requires unimaginable amounts of energy. What was the machine called in Buckaroo Banzai? It was the oscillation overthruster. But what they found, what the current state of physics is that a warp drive is more expensive in terms of energy than a wormhole. The numbers are off the scale, but again, we're generating terawatts of power now, and they didn't have anything 250 years ago. So I figured there are engineering problems and then there are physics problems. So I'm going to give 250 years lots of things for engineering problems, and I'm thinking for these first ships that go out, that set up the Stargate routes and so on, they have to go at sublight speeds because they're going through real space. The gates allow them to not go through real space. So the question is, if you're going to go at 70% of the speed of light, it helps to get to 70% of the speed of light as fast as possible, and it also helps to do anything you can to not burn fuel, or to help the fuel burn that you don't have to take with you. Actually, it was measured in 1676 by Ole Romer. I haven't heard the name Ole Romer since, it was 1516 in the planetarium. But yes, Ole Romer, yeah, absolutely right. Anyway, here's a thought. Let's say you've got an interstellar ship, and it's very, very long, because no matter how ugly they are, you've got to have a shield in the front of this thing. And they did it on Avatar. You need a massive shield to absorb the energy of microscopic dust particles. If you hit anything bigger than that, you're done, just vaporized. But you got to have that shield. So you need the fuel to accelerate the ship, and then you need the fuel to accelerate the fuel, and then you need the fuel to accelerate the fuel that you're going to use to slow down on the other side. So staging is a big deal, right? You're going to use these big engines and these big fuel tanks to run this thing up to whatever percent of the speed light you get to, and you're going to want to drop that so you don't have to decelerate the dead mass on the other side. And I'm thinking, okay, so what can you do to accelerate this ship that doesn't require carrying fuel? And I realized, what you could do is, one of the technologies that's going to be really developed in the colonies is magnetic fields. The light sail is a possibility, but the light sail has very, very, very little thrust. It's efficient, but it's very, very slow. It's like blowing on it. You might as well just blow on it. So what I thought is, okay, what if you had an asteroid which has masses of billions of tons, right? It doesn't even have to be a big asteroid. But what if you had an asteroid and you bored a hole right through it? And inside that hole, you had magnetic accelerators so that the ship goes through this first one, and it just gets this incredibly fast, when I say fast, I mean a short duration, because asteroid is only, a couple miles, 20, 30 miles across. It's got so much mass, you being accelerated by the asteroid would slow the asteroid down, but we don't have fleet operations at an interstellar level. We're talking about sending a one-time ship out there. So you've got this asteroid that is lined with, it's not magic, it's not gravity, it's not anti-gravity, it's just sheer magnetics. And the ship might even have some kind of sabot, or sabot? Sabot round, the things that mean shoe, like a tank round where the casing comes off. But in any event, you could get that ship heading through there, and you could magnetically accelerate it, and you could magnetically accelerate it to another one. Sabo, thank you. It wasn't, Sabo. And you could accelerate it to another one. You go 2, 3 of these things, and you would be able to get a pretty good jump on this thing. It wouldn't take you any fuel, Cebu. We get it. It wouldn't take you any fuel. It's free. You're using the mass of the asteroid to accelerate the ship, and yes, you would slow the asteroid down, but it wouldn't be significant because of the relative masses. And frickin' how how freaking awesome would that visually be? Because if you were to line up a couple of these asteroids, boring a hole in an asteroid doesn't strike me as a tremendously difficult thing to do, given the technology and the economy, the size of the economy, and so on. So every time you launch one, so you want to launch one of these things to Tau Ceti, let's say, right? And you know you're going to launch in so many years or whatever. So you figure out what asteroids are going to be where, and you bore a hole through these things, and you get this kick from the first one, and then you get to the second one, you get another kick. By the time you get to the third one, it's just, it's freaking, it's brilliant because it's visually dramatic. No one's ever seen it before. It makes physical sense. All the engineering and science and physics nerds like me go, that actually would work. And you just, Capuchinato says you print gates ahead of you via lasers sintering asteroid region. Yeah. You just bore holes in asteroids that are lined up, will be lined up when you're ready to go. Now, you don't do this, you do this years in advance because you got to line the inside with all the magnetic accelerators. You put a couple of fusion power plants out there and capacitors, and it could be a one-time thing, right? Compared to the cost of the mission, it's insignificant. And you just the visuals of that would be just so freaking cool. And I don't know. I do know that there are people who are watching this now who could tell me if you went through a Ceres is about 500 miles across, something like that. So let's say you took an asteroid that was 20 miles is a long way. Yes, I'm describing a mass driver exactly, and the projectile is the ship. So let's say you had a 20 mile wide asteroid. You drilled a hole through it, big hole. You put magnetic accelerators there. You're going to be going into that thing at a pretty good speed. This thing it seems like it could give you enough acceleration to turn the crew into jelly. And I have given this some thought too. I like the idea that this sublight ship accelerates at 5 Gs. The faster you get to you start, so the relativistic effects start to take place right around 70% of the speed of light. Yes, 50, 30%, 40, 50%. Yes, the mass of the ship is increasing, but it's not increasing much. It's an exponential curve. So right around 70% is the sweet spot, where the mass of the ship is now starting to relativistically increase to the point where you're starting to reach a point of no return. But by happy coincidence, if you accelerate at a constant 1 G, it takes you 1 year to reach the speed of light. That's assuming you had endless energy. So the faster you can get to 70% of the speed of light, the shorter the trip will be. If it takes you 5 years to accelerate to 70% of the speed of light and 5 years to decelerate, then that's 10 years. If you do it at 5 Gs, it's 1 year on each end. And so the question is, well, how do you take those kind of G forces? And the answer is, it's been right in front of us the whole time. The answer is buoyancy. If you've got your crew floating in liquid, it doesn't matter what the G force is, because buoyancy. Whales collapse under their own weight when they're beached. They suffocate because they're too heavy to breathe. If you had a crew that was submerged, you could give them a lot of Gs. Yeah, Eric, 0 point energy, I am looking into because of the energy requirements needed for this. You really kind of have to go to 0 point energy. I'd spent a lot of time looking at in classical physics, the most energetic reaction you could get would be a matter-antimatter reaction, and that has a limit. And it's hard to make antimatter, but I'm assuming Earth has got the kind of electrical generating power where they're manufacturing kilotons of it. But there's a limit to that. But 0 point energy is amazing. Now, Roadrunner says Robert Heinlein developed the idea of the waterbed for high gravity space travel. I did not know that. I thought I came up with that. But if anybody's going to beat me to it, I'm glad it's Heinlein. Mercer says, Bill, I asked Gemini, supposedly Runway has video to video transformations, which means you could theoretically upscale precise motions and coordinate actions from a low res animatic. Have you tried this yet? Haven't tried Gemini. I've tried it in other things, and the result was really, really wonky, but we're getting there. For the foreseeable future, I checked with ChatGPT and a couple others. It looks like 2027 when all of these technologies will converge on Runway. No, I tried it and I didn't like what I got, but I need somebody who really understands like Comfy UI, which will disappear in a year or two because it'll be folded into the technology when it comes. But the AIs are saying 2027 will have the precision of CGI and the rendering of AI, and these technologies will be there, and then it's game over at that point. So by the time I get this thing off the ground, we're in 2026. So, fake it until then. In any event, I'm not so much worried about that. But until these things come together, I'm going to need to blend Blender and AI. I'm gonna have to composite things in such a way so that I'll have a digital. I'll have to have a digital version of, let's say, Lisa and Jake that can be seen through the rover glass. But for the inside of the rover, I render the background in CGI, and then I have AI do the actual faces. Mercer says it's also suggested trying Luma AI, Absinthe, Topaz, Domo AI, and Pika Labs as possible. Video to video might be worth looking into. I will look into it. I need to do it. But the point is, this is why I need to raise some money in order to do the crowdfunding, because I can't do this on my own, needless to say. And I really, really want to go back. I fought this idea for a long time. But once you get into the space stuff, I really want centrifuges, and I want, fuel tanks and all of that stuff. I don't, this story takes place at a time of transformation, where one of the guys who's a founder of one of the founders is a guy who owns Regan Dynamics, and he is designing ships that look like that have a down, and he's using magnetics to fake gravity, not gravity. It's not artificial gravity, it's magnetics. And so the scene would be, just to show you how the scene works without just batting people over the head with a tell me professor kind of thing. So let's say you got a guy on one of these ships, and it's kind of a streamlined ship. It's not got spinning centrifuges because Regan Dynamics Regan is a genius, and he's on our team, and so he's got a linear deck ship. There's a lot of reasons why you would want that, primarily because if it's relatively streamlined, you can refuel at a gas giant. Just do a looping orbit and just keep dipping into the atmosphere, and as long as you don't have, parts sticking out, that's just a heat issue. You just pick up some hydrogen and off you go. But you can't do the artificial gravity. And one of the cool things that I realized with the AI is that I can do things as easily. I can do zero gravity as easily as I can do anything else. I can just have people floating down the hallways. I don't have to go into the vomit comet to shoot it. I can just have zero gravity. But I want to do a scene where a guy is in a jumpsuit, let's say. Well, let's make it a hot babe. Is in a jumpsuit, and she goes in to take her shower, and she takes the jumpsuit off in 0G, and she goes into the shower, and she gets the shower, and then she gets sprayed with, it be your choice of color. She gets sprayed with something that looks like, let's just say for the sake of it, looks like black paint. It's got a real sharp line here, and goes all the way down to the fingers. But it is a it's not even a bodysuit. It's like she's painted with black metallic paint, and so she floats into the shower. But when she comes out of the shower, she steps on this magnetic plate, and she's got gravity because it's not magnetic boots, which is it's like there's a magnetic field that is affecting this suit. And yeah, it's a spray-on G suit, Last Independent Thinker says. So this magnetic field is she's now what's the word I'm looking for? Ferrous. She is affected by magnetic fields. And now you can have a really cool scene where somebody is trying this for the first time, and they get on board the ship and they get this thing, and they step on one of these magnetic artificial gravity plates, and the guy's like, whoa. And then the guy who's standing right next to him, yeah, it takes some getting used to, man. So, wow. Try taking a few steps. And the guy takes a few steps, and he's like, this is really weird. This is really, really weird. And the guy who's used to it says, well, it's weird because your insides don't weigh anything, and your inner ear doesn't weigh anything. Your innards are weightless. But the magnetic fields are pulling on your arms and your legs and all of it, and not only is it keeping you on the ground, it's exercising your muscles. So there's that. And they go, hey, sweet, make it so. And then there's a commercial or a pitch or something that Regan Dynamics will do. It'd basically be like 6 years ago we introduced the Regan Dynamics magnetogravity system, Mark I, and he's got like a little beaker full of metal filings, and he throws it into the air, and the iron filings form into kind of like a box shape of a human. And he said, and you had to wear this this undersuit. Then 3 years ago, we did the Mark II, and he throws a second set of iron filings over one of these plates, and now the form is much more human. And he said, and that required a skin-tight bodysuit. But with the Mark III, you don't wear anything, you don't feel it. It's not only is it keeping you warm or cold, it's also monitoring your vitals and wicking away sweat and all the rest of it. But look at the resolution on our magnetic fields. It throws these iron filings into the air, and it forms almost perfect human shape. And he says, we continue to experiment with our control over magnetic fields. Our resolution is increasing by the day. This feels more and more like gravity, and the days of spinning centrifuges are on their way out. And I just think it's freaking awesome, because now you can have the Colony guys have some really cool ships, and nobody else has really got that yet. But yeah, put them in a tank, man. Be really, really think it through. In space combat, that's when you're going to need the highest G load, and just think about how weird it would be and how cool it would be if you had a crew of 4 or 5 people fighting a spaceship. This is a combat crew, and they're doing it underwater. They're underwater, and with AI, it's a piece of cake, man. It's just a piece of cake. Did you see the AI-generated Elon Musk music video? No, I've seen a bunch of stuff with him in it. I don't know if it's that or not. Got him, Coach says, good morning, neighbors. You back or leaving or you or whatever? Greg Owen says, Bill, what a string of thinking. Great to listen to. Well, we're all part of this together. The main thing I'd like to say about the colonies I've said before, and that is I really, really, really want to open source this. Really, really want to open source it. I want to make it. Everybody contributes. We have to... the way it would work would require a really good entertainment lawyer because you have some exposure. But the way, I've mentioned this before, the way I'd like it to work would be we will enter the game with, let's say, 25 solar systems, which might consist of 5 or 6 planets each, but probably have something like 100 moons. And we'll generate the moons with the, we'll probably use some kind of procedural system, but they'll have light areas and dark areas. And I would like for somebody to say, this little, 200 diameter moon, 200 mile diameter moon, I want to do the backstory on that. And we would say, okay, here's your agreement, electronically sign this agreement. And what the agreement says is, you understand that you're doing this on a volunteer basis. You understand that you're not getting paid for it, or maybe we pay you $100 or something, whatever. That this will be your total compensation. You agree and understand that you have no rights to any of the downstream revenue of all this. You will receive credit for it, but that's the limit of your compensation. And most importantly, you agree that it has to pass the filter. And the filter in the beginning is me, and eventually the filter would be people who over time have convinced me they really understand it. Because you can't have somebody come into this thing with a Hello Kitty planet. Right? I am the beautiful thing about making it open source is you get all these different perspectives, and it's impossible for one person, not only impossible, undesirable for one person. I mean, this thing at launch is going to have thousands of moons. And I don't, not only do I not want to write a little backstory of all these things, I can't. But if you can travel to them in the game that is coming eventually, then we need to know what is this dark area called? What is this? Where's the primary city? Tell me a little bit about how this planet was developed. And if you want to work on just that thing, or if you want to work on just the history of this one mega corporation, let's say, pitch it. Yeah, I want to do. I want to write the backstory for N-Star Energy Systems. Okay, tell me the basics. It's an American-based mega corporation, and it's got partnerships with the South American bloc, and blah blah blah. And they're going to do this and this and this, and this is what they specialize in. I said, sold. And then they submit the thing, and me in the beginning, but eventually a committee looks at this and says, there's nothing in here that is breaking continuity. There's nothing in here that doesn't belong. Approved. Boom. And now that's canon. It goes into the video game. It goes into the show if we end up going there, and you create this entire universe that you can travel through, and people just keep adding detail to it, and everybody gets to be a part of it. And ultimately, this becomes the kind of thing where you can design the colonies. You can put the little cities where you want to, or the little settlements, or whatever. This is the thing I learned from Star Citizen, where you can visit all these things, but Star Citizen isn't open sourcing it. So they've got their planetary team, which doesn't impress me. I've seen some of the things. For instance, Star Citizen has a planet that's split down the middle, and the two halves of the planet just sit there like this. The Star Citizen had just opened up apparently the third solar system. Good for them, because I didn't know if they'd ever get to a second one. They've had the second one for a year or two now. Tyro. And the new one they've opened up is Nix, which is a gigantic asteroid belt. And you look up into the sky, and the sky's just filled with asteroids, and they're all just sitting there. And I look at this and I go, somebody doesn't understand how gravity works, because this is impossible. Every asteroid belt you've ever seen in the movies, from Lost in Space to Star Wars, is impossible. It's impossible. You cannot have these giant rocks this close together tumbling through space, because they will simply clump together. The average distance between asteroids, I think, is 100,000 miles, which means that whatever asteroid you stand on, no other asteroids are visible. AirTechie says, what about criminal organizations? Love it. Love it. What about, I would like to have people who do nothing but play the Chinese hegemony or whatever, right? That's what they do. And I'd be perfectly happy if they were a Chinese player. That'd be even better. If there was a group of fans of the show who were Chinese, and they want to steer the Chinese hegemony at 600,000 miles. Thank you. Then I'm completely down with that. I think it's great. I think it's great. I think it'd be really, really cool if you could have space battles in the game, and then those battles become canon in the TV show. And what I'm really trying to do is build something that just moves into the place where Star Trek and Star Wars used to be. But clearly, my hope is that it lives much, much, much longer than I do, and it's got to be owned by the fans. There can't be any studio executives involved with this at any point, because otherwise we're going to start getting the talking dog, and we're going to get the girl bosses and all the rest of that stuff. George says, except for the handful of asteroids that have satellites. So, in this system, turns out that the planetary generator. I mean, we have in this solar system, in our solar system, we have hundreds of thousands of asteroids, right? Hundreds of thousands of them. If you want to have a smuggler's base, or if you want to go to the exact opposite extreme, if you want to have the most elite country club, if you want Epstein Island, then it's in this system. It's on this asteroid, which is just one rock among millions of rocks in the middle of nowhere. Develop that baby, and we will release it. We'll just put it into the backstory, or maybe it'll be the main story. These kind of details are what generates great storytelling, because, like Air Techie says, what about criminal organizations? I hadn't given criminal organizations much thought, but if 5 or 6 guys get together and they write a compelling background for this criminal organization and how they operate and what their economics are, then we got piracy. We got piracy, then we have to have patrol ships. If we have to have patrol ships, we have space combat. If we have space combat, we've got a story. Think about, Roadrunner says, build the asteroid belt started as a planet that broke up. It's believed that the asteroid belt was a planet that never formed. When you get into, and I've only seen this recently, but running the clock of the solar system backwards, it looks like what happened was Jupiter formed, and at least the clump that would become Jupiter, and this Jupiter, this proto-Jupiter, started moving inward, and as it moved inward, it destroyed what would have been Planet 5 outside of Mars, broke that up, ate most of it. What was left was the asteroid belt, kept coming closer, ate a lot of what Mars was supposed to be. Mars is much smaller than it should be. Mars is a dwarf planet, and it's like Jupiter is coming closer and essentially eats most of Mars, and is about to come in and finish off Earth and Venus when Saturn forms, and Saturn pulls it back out again. And this has apparently got some pretty good astrophysics behind it. And it sure does make you wonder about how unusual life in the universe is, if it turns out that if proto-Jupiter hadn't come in and eaten the planets, and then proto-Saturn hadn't pulled it back out again, you know? Steve Young AOC says, pachinko ball parlors are the national gaming system of the colonies. Give me something, man. Give me something new. And this is another thing, right? See, this is what's really fun. If you can create like a card game that works, people will play it. People will buy those cards. If you see people playing a card game in the colonies because they're bored, they're sitting in a hab, and they're playing Fizbin, and there are rules, then people will buy that. And I would, I think that a lot of something like that, if you're talking about merchandise, that's the kind of thing we just write a special contract for and so on. Yeah, playing Fizbin, man. Anyway, so that's about it. I'm gonna go back and look at that thing again, because the aliens didn't get much of a response, and I think it's probably because they look too much like jellyfish. I'm gonna take a look at even. I know that they're gonna get darker and heavier as they get deeper, but I'm wondering if maybe it's not too my criticism of the thing I showed earlier was that it looks a little bit too much Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a little bit too mystical. Richard says, I like the glowing space jellyfish. I kind of do too, and I think as long as you keep them in the highlands, once you get down there, it gets darker, they get more massive, they get like the one that fell over, and then at nighttime, I mean, when you get down into the chasm, it's just the abyss. It's just black. You've got to wear a hard suit. It's probably 10 atmospheres down there, and they're doing all of that. Eric says, Bill, since you're paralleling the American Revolution, what if we find the criminal organizations supporting the colonies, like the pirates hired by the Continental Congress, by letters of marque? Letters of marque are great. I love the idea of, oh, come on. I'm not going to look. There are pirates, and then there are privateers. And great. We're not going to have any space whales. We're not going to have any spore drives. We're not going to have any of that crap. There's a planet it's pretty much the opposite of Medusa. There's one planet I'm thinking about calling Caliban, even though it's been used. It's used in 40K, but it's a perfect name for it. I've got a planet that is nothing but one giant, swampy, green hell, where everything eats everything else. Everything. The herbivores are crazy armored, and I've got great CG models that are done by the same artist, and everything is the nickname for the planet is murder. And we're gonna go land on murder. Everything is trying to kill you. What was that science fiction story? Was it? It was part of Traveler 2100. No, Dagobah. Dagobah was a giant jungle planet, but they were just walking around. There's no going outdoor Australia. Exactly. That's exactly right. And it's not dangerous because of the heat. It's just everything in there is trying to kill you. Everything. In 2300, there was a planet that had colonies and humans could exist above a certain line because of the air pressure or the temperature or something, but they had these flying predators, and people who came to visit this colony were so shocked that if any of the colonists saw like a baby one of these things, they would just stomp it to death with their boots, just grind it into grass. And it's like, was it Vogelheim? Oh, Air Techie, you are a freaking stud, dude. You win the. It was Vogelheim. You, sir, have won the internet for the night. Yes, it was Vogelheim, and there are these airborne predators, and there's like nets over everything, and the colonists kill them on sight. Just kill them on sight, and because they're wolves, man. They're Vogelheim. Man, that made my day. The Death Worlders. Turns out Earth is considered to be a death world by the civilized parts of the galaxy. That sounds like a humanity HFY story. Kirk Spambuzuka says, don't say quicksand, had enough of that as a kid. John Mulroney had a line about that. He said, as I've gotten older, I realized some things that I thought as a child. Well, let's just say that quicksand wasn't the threat that I thought it would be growing up. Something along those lines. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So yeah, this turned out to be a 3-hour tour. I thought we'd be done real quick, but it's a 3-hour tour. So I'm going to turn off lights and get myself home here, I think. And this was really fun. So yeah, that'll do it. Thanks very much for being here. The show's made possible by the members at BillLittle.com, as you know. And we're real grateful for all of them, and we're looking forward to that. I hate to ask, but did Bill answer the question? You're distracted by a colony. I did answer the question. I don't. It's one of the most endearing things about you, Eric, is your absolute unwillingness to give up on Disney. But I hate Disney. I hate them, and I don't. I personally don't care. I just think they're irredeemably lost, and I hate them. But Eric's trying to save Disney, man, and good on you. And I think it's great. I think it's if you can do it, it'll make me happy. But it's like somebody who is. It's like my position on Disney now is like Charlie Brown's position on Lucy and the football. It's like, you know, the second time that she did that, he should have just pounded the snot out of her, and that would have been the end of that. Charlie Brown, there's a lesson for you to take home to your kids, folks. First time she pulls the ball on Charlie Brown, okay, that's a joke. It's a bad joke. Second time she does it, Charlie Brown should have beaten her within an inch of her life. And then she either wouldn't have teed up the ball again, or she would have held the ball and he wouldn't have had that thing. There's a Family Guy episode in which Lucy gets her ass beaten. I didn't know that, but I hated her. I know you're supposed to, but I just hated her. And Gotham Coach says Netflix is just as bad as Disney. It is. That's my question, Bill. I'm sorry. What institutions would you want to see Elon seizing? Sorry. Yes. Well, it'd be nice if he. Obviously, it'd be nice if he bought YouTube, but it's $500 billion. It's just ridiculous. I suppose he could put money into. I mean, Rumble's an alternate platform, but Rumble kind of sucks, man. You know, it just does. I'm glad they're there. We post all of our videos, host our videos on Rumble, yeah. So what I don't know that I would want him to take over anything, Eric. But I think if Elon Musk were to start, 25 conservative, not even conservative, just pro-rational, film studios, give them each $10 million and see what they can do. Because if you can make a movie for $5 million or $10 million, you are almost, I'm not talking about crowdsourcing, even if you go in the hole for $5 million and you make a good movie, you're probably going to see that money back. But if you're in for 50, that's less likely. And if you're in for 250, forget about it. I don't think we would have won the 2024 election if he hadn't bought Twitter. And it turns out all you needed was one open pathway of information, and if you had that, there was no ignoring it. So, Eric Blake says, well, Warner Brothers is for sale. I wouldn't, if somebody offered me Warner Brothers, I wouldn't take it. I know this sounds really bizarre, but I would, if somebody gave me the money to buy Warner Brothers and said, hey, you can make your movies live action, I would take that money and I'd invest it in AI. I'd invest it in AI imagery. Because what I see AI do instantly, just to give you one example, just one, on that re-entry video, all of the cockpit instrumentation is animated. Just to animate that stuff for one shot on one monitor traditionally is work. So I would I would build something. Now, as I forget who it was last week on Thursday, and I apologize for forgetting who it was last week. Said, look, a lot of people have a negative impression of AI. A lot of people hate AI, and I don't blame them because it's AI slop. But my intention and my full effort is going to be exclusively in making sure that you can't tell that it's AI. And when I look at, there's some AI science fiction channels out there, and they have AI starships, and they kind of morph a little bit, and they don't really move the right direction. And and this is clearly a prompt generated character, and they talk like prompt generated characters. The acting is prompt generated. No, we're not getting away from humans. I'm going to have human actors performing in this medium where it is indistinguishable from reality. But as I was saying earlier, you can do zero gravity as easily as you can do anything else. And if you just want to take zero gravity alone, just that one particular effect, to do it right would cost a fortune, because you'd have to do it on the Vomit Comet. you cannot do real zero gravity with wires. When they shot Apollo 13, they shot the scenes of him going from the command module into the LEM. They shot it in zero gravity on the Vomit Comet. So there you go. Right. Anyway, thanks again to our members for keeping this whole thing rolling. We really appreciate it, and it's great to see everybody here. I had a lot of fun talking tonight, and we will see you again on Thursday for Stratosphere Lounge, and I know we're behind on a lot of things like story mechanics and all these other things. I am going full speed ahead on this. I've got 4 pathways open to this, and this is taking my full attention because I've been wanting to do this for 50 years, and so I'm gonna stay on this until I either get this money to do it. The truth bombs, all of that. I understand how far behind I am. I understand how dismaying and depressing it is. I'm riding the razor's edge here, but I am working really hard to make this happen, and I'm not going to take no for an answer. So, all right. So, A Fire in the Sky. Wasn't that D.B. Sweeney? Yeah, friend of mine, a good guy. Okay, thanks guys. We'll see you. We'll see you on Thursday night for your very own Stratosphere Lounge. Hooray!